Hello, everyone, and welcome to what I think is episode 27 of the LightBringers Guild Wars 2 podcast. With me, your host, Jebro, and guests will ensue now. I can't see you yet, so you're just making moves with your arms and stuff for no reason. Hello, guests. We have just had we've just had the show. Yes. Guild Chat. Guild Chat was had. It's gone. Rook's looking at me in a way. And
I was just trying to mess you up without ever having to say a word, Jebro, and I feel like I did it pretty well. Thank you.
You did. It was the whole and then the face. Everyone, it's good to see you. How are you doing? We have some guests. We have Cruff.
Cruff. We got Cruff. Hey guys. No, like me.
We got Cruff. We got Ruck. We got some.
We got some.
I wasn't sure who I was going to introduce first, and then it was just like Cruff, the Rook.
Cruff, Rock, Zum.
So it's actually Cruff.
Cruff.
Okay, let's start again.
Is that my intro? Oh. Is that my cue?
No, I'm joking. We're not going to start again. We're going to leave that in.
I was like, was that my cue? Should I say something?
No.
I think that was meant to be, yeah.
Kroof, hello, welcome. Tell us about yourself, what you're doing in Guild Wars 2, and why you would ever come onto the show.
I don't know.
No one
knows
it's
anymore. Self-inflicted torment, much like the Spectre. But hi everyone,
Ooh.
My name is Kroof, and I do a lot of YouTube stuff with Guild Wars 2. I've been posting a lot of videos about the Elite Specs. I have a narrative video out. Go check that out if you'd like.
Yes, you worked so hard on that. It's so good.
It was good. I enjoyed it a lot. So I thank you everyone so much. But I've also been streaming here on Twitch Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays when I'm asked on podcasts, which I so dearly love and cherish. So happy to be here.
Oh, so the reason you come onto the podcast is because you like it. Okay, good. That's
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Exactly.
That's probably quite a good thing, actually. Go and follow Chris all the things, and also I would say go and watch the engineer video as well. I enjoyed that. I watched it last night while I was doing my stuff, and the excitement Kroof had for the engineer was awesome. I enjoyed it. I appreciated the shout out as well. Kroof was like, go and give Jebro some love, because you were like, congratulations.
It was such a good trailer.
You were like, congratulations, Jebro. It's like I'd had a child.
Really? I was like, I feel happy for Jebro. This was a great trailer, and the very last one, you waited a long time. You deserved it.
Thank you. Well, I want to say thank you to the stream, my mods, our community, and yeah, all the things. Kroof, amazing to have you here again. Rook, or wait, has your name changed now yet? Not yet.
No, but very soon it will be happening very quickly. And I did just decide today that I am going to change it to Ruck. So you can all call me Rucksack from here on out as like a fun little nickname.
Rucksack. So you shouldn't have said that. If you get into a ruck, if you get into a ruck, you get into a little bit of a fight. You get into a little bit of a ruckus.
Like a ruckus.
Yeah,
all right, that would work too.
You're gonna have a little bit of a ruck. There you go.
That would be pretty. I mean, that would work for our stream vibe. So I feel pretty good about that.
For the stream vibe, yeah.
Yeah, the chaos, the energy.
Oh.
No, we'll be changing to Rookery very soon. ROOKURI. As of right now, you can still find me under Bird of Chess. And we actually just recently have been doing some things with streams with new player experience and stuff like that, which I'm really looking forward to doing more of. And although it is not coming out immediately, we are working on some large-scale lore videos and additional things so that if you enjoyed the story summary from the pre-show of End of Dragons that I did, you will have much more to look forward to, which I can't wait to get into and pick some topics that I think will be great. Probably a lot of them will just be about dragons, because I'm obsessed with them in Guild Wars 2, and it seems appropriate with End of Dragons. So keep an eye out. Those will be coming at some point, and I'm really excited to do them. Otherwise, you can find me just about everywhere right now. Bird of Chess, Twitch, YouTube, Twitter. I stream, I create videos. I nerd out on the internet, but like I said, very soon it'll be Rookery, ROOKURI. Why do I come on this podcast? I'm trying to decide how sassy I want to be, but I think today
Go
I'll
for
just
maximum sass because I love it.
No, you
from
know what?
Go on.
I'm going to do the unexpected.
No.
I'm going to do the unexpected.
No.
I come on this podcast because no matter who the guests are, although we oftentimes do get to enjoy at least some of our company, and I get to meet Sam for the first time today, which is awesome.
Yeah.
I get to laugh and just really enjoy myself and get to connect with all of you. And I think this podcast is just such a great vibe. And I love all the information and different perspectives. And I literally do not laugh as hard as this in any other content I do with all of you. So getting to share the joy of games together is really special. So thank you, Jeb, for making it happen and facilitating. And also, I love it. I love being here to harass Jebro every single day. And I actually hate the podcast, but I mostly like harassing Jebro.
It's just for the exposure. What can I say?
Exposure. Oh God. It's for the dicks and for the titties, as we were saying earlier. And that's for the burgers. That's for the burgers. It's for Dick's Burgers from Seattle. And we're talking about the blue tits that we showed on screen during the guild chat episode.
Yeah.
That was not because of any body parts. If you want to be rude, if you like that and you're just dirty minded, then you're in the right place. Continue to watch or listen wherever you are.
For a real throwback, I'm mostly on this podcast to keep up to date with group syphilis stats.
Oh, no. No, the explicit setting. That's an old meme now. It's such a throwback. It really is. I've got to find that episode and name it. So yeah. So, thank you very much. You said you weren't going to go sassy, but you changed at the end.
I did a little bit at the end.
Awesome to have you here once again, my friend. Awesome. Sam, new guest. Regretting every moment so far.
I didn't know what to expect here. I decided not to watch anything so that I would discover it the moment I arrived here. And I must say, it's been an adventure.
Yes. It's like your first playthrough of...
Exactly.
Yeah. Of Little Nightmares, probably. I could combine it with scary,
I would
but
have
also
gone for
hilarious.
Magica,
And kind of...
but yeah. I agree wholeheartedly.
Kroof is gone.
So
died.
yeah, we've lost Kroof. So since everybody went through a round of presentation, I guess mine is due as well.
Yes.
I'm Sam. I mostly made video and still make videos on the Guild Wars 2 economy, which is a subject of predilection for me. Yet, for a very long time, I was making content centered around the Ranger class, which is exactly why I've been invited today. Because we finally got to have a look at the Untamed spec well in depth. So naturally, they needed someone to pretend like the new Ranger and to make a whole lot of very funny faces as the traits were being revealed. That is why I am here right now. And also for the fact that Jebro said I am providing you with an unpaid opportunity as a new intern on my podcast. And I was like, yes, finally exposure. So yeah, there you go. There you have it. I am being exploited. I'm blinking. Please help. Send help. There we go.
Sam, thank you so much for all the coffee you've brought us during the podcast. I really appreciate it. And for also doing my taxes.
What is your...
Thank you.
My taxes.
Can you do mine as well?
Please no. I've had enough.
Gonna do my taxes. Okay.
I just say
Wow.
plantar warts?
This is such an amazing podcast.
If Kroof, I'm sorry, somebody in chat did say that Kroof is a plantar wart, but I just want to be very clear that Kroof, if you were a wart on me, I would never want to get rid of you. I just want to be real about that.
I stick. I'm a plantar wart. I'm on the sole of everyone's foot. Everyone steps on me, but I never leave.
I mean, if don't start talking about stepping on people, we'll be here for a while. As
I'm
Rook,
sorry.
As Rook looks at the camera very erotically there.
Lady,
calm down, calm down, everyone.
Are you a fan of Lady Dimitrescu?
I'm a fan of any woman, any person really that's got step on me energy, of which she is a good example. I mean, I'm just saying, if you don't appreciate a good step on me vibe, I don't know what I can do to help you.
Talking about stepping on you and other people, the elite specializations could possibly do something like that, but probably not the thief. Let's begin.
Yep. I have to give you props on trying to spin that into a transition, even though it wasn't master.
Transition.
You just wanted to stay there, and I can't blame you. It's fine.
He did his best.
I did.
Just like the Mechanist.
Rook, is your favorite movie Step Up?
Oh, clearly, yes, obviously.
It's not step off, is it?
You step on. Step up on me.
Oh my god.
This is derailing. Ladies and gentlemen, this is derailing.
Yes, I'm gonna actually play that right now so that happens. Let's go and have a look. It was a very good. It was generally the. God, what are we even doing here? This is episode 27, I think. The podcast, the guild chat, was very good. It's definitely over the process of this is what, twice before this was done. It's third time now. They've definitely made it more scheduled and more like, you know, they've got a plan, whereas the first one was like, let's get water bottles and Cal in front of everyone. And Cal can drink water and talk about the game, and we'll also do some stuff every so often. And like, that kind of works with them, I guess. But now it seems a little bit more structured, which is the actual word I wanted to use.
In all honesty, that goes quite well into the whole slew of communication they've been giving us lately. Like, they've improved on all social media. They've actually tried to get some discussion going on the forums instead of a one-sided information being given to the masses. And really, it feels so much better than what we had previously. Because if you remember, years back, we had guild chats that were just a window out of which they would show us some stuff. And then on Reddit, we had some form of AMA conversations, sometimes devs partaking in it. And this right there really feels like they're trying to show us what they can do best and then organize a conversation around it on social media, which is the best approach they could have in order to foster a positive community around the future expansion.
Really good point, actually, because like the World v World stuff specifically this week was really, really good. Talking
100%,
about the actual communication in that, because like, and if you don't know, I'll say I'll put the post in the description, but I just won't. I'm not gonna lie, what's the point? But like, go and check out the Guild Wars 2 website, check under the news section, and there's a lot of information about the beta. Obviously, we've had lots of talking about, you know, DX11 and other things recently in the past as well, like loads of communication stuff, which I feel like that definitely changed. Like Sam's saying, you know, communication is more important than ever to all the peeps. You know, even Grouch was talking about it on their Twitter as well recently, and I was like, I replied, and I will openly say this: ever since Colin and Grouch came back, the communication lines have been well and truly opened. That is one of the reasons why this game is changing for the better, and I will categorically say that those two people are probably very much to do with that. And that's because they're allowing people to do what they want to do, and that's talk about their game and talk about their love for the things. Because I think they were stifled before, and that's a shame.
I actually believe that it's also due to their experience of leaving the studio, maybe experiencing something different, another form of management in another structure, and then they're coming back with the good aspects. You know, that they've learned some good things. They're putting it back into the one game that truly defined them.
Josh has grown like. I mean, Grouch was like, you know, he started Arena. That was his first proper like game dev job, I'm pretty sure. And like was like he went through everything. He was like QA, marketing, where it went over to Crucible, to Amazon Games, where I worked with him and Colin very closely, and tons of ANET peeps, to be fair, which is kind of interesting, because it's just like working with ArenaNet, but also not. And then and yeah, they just grew. Like, you know, they actually had completely different roles as well, which is interesting, but their communication was very different. Like, you could tell, like, they had the freedom to do these things. That's a good point. Very good point, Sam. Yes, indeed. We could probably have a communication podcast. But I'm all about that communication. That's why I'm talking. I'm a counselor. I'm literally counseling people. Communication is a big thing. It's important in relationships. And I've always talked about this. When you've got an MMORPG, it's like having a relationship, because You're involved in this world, in this place, and it's like a person. It's like your family. Like, it literally is. And like, so I've often talked about ArenaNet as being like your mom or your dad or your parent. Like, if you're not talking to us and telling us what's going on, we're gonna get sad about stuff. And I could really go into that whole thing, but that's the psychology of gaming stuffs, which is not for this podcast. Anyway, very good point, Sam. Yes. I was trying to kill time because I was like, I wonder how long the countdown's going to go and how long this could maybe work, but it's not going to work. General like a couple, if you could say, give me 5 words maximum. Rooks first of your impressions of today's general guild chat. 5 words maximum. It doesn't mean you have to use 5 words. Or it can be a small sentence of 5 words. Okay. Or a statement.
Okay, Spectre. I'm going to combine this one into one. Spectre, hot diggity damn.
How many words?
All one thing, they're hyphenated.
All hyphenated, yeah.
Spectre, hot diggity damn.
So Rook's cheating, obviously.
Are you allowing this?
I don't know, actually. I'm still trying to decide.
I'm just going to keep going. I'm not going to give you a moment to contemplate it.
Okay,
Untamed. Okay. And
is that hyphenated?
You wound me.
And then this one's all gonna be one word, so lots of hyphens in this one. Machinist. Nope, dang it. Every single time Final Fantasy 14 has a class 2 similar to this. Mechanist. Ooh, yeah. Yeah, hell yes. Yeah.
So do you count the whole spiel you did with Final Fantasy 14 in there? Because that's a lot of hyphens.
That's removed. Yeah.
Okay, so we are expunging that. Okay, a footnote.
Yes.
Like Cliff Notes, or maybe, I don't know. Actually, no, that's a longer version, isn't it? Cliff Notes is more the shorter. Okay, so I don't know what Rook said. Kroof?
Okay. I'm going to chunk it up as well.
We're not hyphening. No hyphens. This is cheating.
No, I'm chunking it up in terms of each.
Just tell me then.
Calm down, Spectre. Oh, Spectre, delicious, juicy.
That's how I talk about sushi. But
I love that.
I like that. I want some sushi.
Untamed. Not as bad as Catalyst. Mechanist.
Not as good as your makeup right now. That's for sure.
Oh, that too.
I have to say, your look is probably fiercer than I felt like Untamed was.
Oh,
wow. Why all hitting on the kid?
This spiciness.
Like leaves, nature, I don't know. And then Mechanist, I am an engineer main now, so that's all I'm saying.
That's fair enough. That's the best one so far. Sam, a lot to meet up with. It's basically about complimenting the engineer.
The rule was give 5 words. I'm going to try to follow you on the exercise.
Thank you. You will be the only one.
Teacher's pet over here.
No, I'm just a very boring individual, Kroof. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's not true. Even from what we've just seen of you, Sam, I know that's a blatant lie.
All right, so I would start by saying structured. Like, as a guild chat, this was really clean. Like, we had...
You hit more than
you've actually almost failed. You've pretty much failed as well.
That's a footnote.
I mean, we're not. This is not
structured.
This is not the LightBringers #. Footnote. This is 5 words.
No,
I love how every single guest has failed.
Exponent, mister.
It's insert word with a parenthetical.
Wait, instant wood.
Insert wood.
Instant inserting of wood. What are we talking about? This is not a podcast anymore.
Kroof, we are not talking about the restaurant dicks anymore, so I'm gonna need you to get.
You know what? I've got this as a mature rated channel, and thank God. Thank God. This is where
you say orgasm when you're reading organism. It just happened.
We're really not talking about that, Kroof.
Just happened.
You just took it to the next
level. I
level.
just slipped up. Okay, now continue, Sarah.
All right, so as I said, structured, detailed, disheartening.
Oh, disheartening. Okay.
You know which one is?
The lack of water. That was disheartening.
No, a little bit of Untamed was.
Oh, right, okay.
This
I was being sarcastic. It's okay.
Okay. Like, hype. Like that
And
word
hype.
has to be there. Yeah.
Okay.
And my final word, my last word, the final answer is gonna be. I'm playing for time because I have no idea.
Chicken nuggets.
Ooh, really stretching your English knowledge. Different adjectives.
Oh yeah, props to Sam. Sam is
Yeah.
English language is not his
Yeah,
first language
this is actually
either.
quite
So.
hard. Yeah. Like
Really good. Really good.
You're doing great.
I would say. I mean, it's not exactly a word, but like more like a feeling, just expectations. Like I have expectations based on what I'm seeing,
Poetic.
but they still have the opportunity to change some of the things, just like they would and should do on Catalyst. Today they've shown us some things that still need a little bit of reworking, and so I have expectations for what we will test when it's going to be in the final release.
That's a good one, actually.
Fair. That's good. Yeah.
Okay.
I completely danced my way out of this predicament.
I will be the literally
Your turn,
only
Jeb.
person to use 5 words. It's the failure
Okay.
has
Give
been
us a
realized.
haiku, Jeb, bro. Give us a haiku.
Yeah, go on, Jeff.
I'm going to say
So there's 3 already.
no. This is my podcast. I decide when to start.
I am gonna say.
God damn it.
Thank you. 4
It's going to
words
be
already,
starting
Jeb. One
now.
more.
After now, which is now.
After now.
After now.
Which is now. Get 5.
Life is a roller coaster.
That's
No, that's 4. That's what
No,
roller
that's
coaster
it.
is one word.
That's it. And now
one word.
No. Well, I said up to 5. I didn't say it had to be 5.
Okay.
I did like stipulate that. I said speculate. I'm just gonna say
Bending the
speculate. It makes no
rules?
sense. I will tell you why life is a roller coaster, because there are ups and downs, and sometimes peaks and troughs, and sometimes those troughs can take us into the forest and realize maybe
So,
we
Jebro,
don't
is
want to
this
be
the
there.
footnote? Is this the footnote then
No,
for your 5 words?
yes.
Your 4 words?
And if you want more
Brooke is
synonyms,
fired.
Troops and valleys.
That's okay. That's fair. I figured I would be one day, so.
I've been preparing for this my whole life.
I have done, yeah.
Genuine thoughts and feelings though from me. I think just generally they've nailed the whole process of this, and they've got it down pat. And I'm very sad that it's the last one. I'm not, because like we just won't get to have. We'll get to have one in other ways. Obviously, this is not going to be the end of the show. But like, it's just been good to have the 3 of them doing this show. I think they've got a good. There's a good, just general vibe with. I don't like saying vibe. There's just a general good,
I like
generally
saying
good
vibe.
yeah, I know you do. There's a good atmosphere. They're good together. It's just a nice show. I like it, and I kind of would like to see them doing other stuff together. Because I think they're a good different mix of different areas of the game. It's like areas of the game coming together, like the lore, the presentation, and the technical. And I kind of like that. Yeah, but generally the show, I love these. I just love going. I'm gonna go for it after the show probably as well. I'll probably make a more in-depth video, but I've not really done that much other than the first ones, and they didn't do so well because if people just hate the spec, they just dislike the video, and I'm like, there's nothing I can do about that. Like, I'm just telling you the stuff and telling you my opinions, and
did
people
wanna
were just
say-
like, ugh.
In that vein, like watching the stream today, it was ridiculous to me immediately how, we literally have Spectre about to start, and people, like, they've said 2 words, and like there's people in the chat just like, yawn, Spectre, yawn. And then like as they get more into it, as they reveal Spectre stuff, suddenly all those people mysteriously just stopped saying anything. And so this is kind of like a footnote for everyone, even when it comes to us talking about Untamed today, right? Like, I always try to be very conscious about how I talk about things that may not be the highlights of moments for me, because just because there may have been an area that didn't appeal to me as much doesn't mean that this entire thing was a wash. Nor do I think that all these elite specs that we've gotten haven't shown an incredible range of creativity, dynamic ideas, incredible realization. This is not an easy game to make classes for. This is a game where every class can use multiple weapons that have different abilities, that has multiple elite specs, that has to balance across drastically different game modes that has to be accessible and flexible for gear sets and weapon types and your traits and any skill you might take in, right? So this is honestly truly a testament to the ArenaNet team. They are constantly showing us things and innovating in ways that really is more demanding than many other MMOs with their systems. So I just wanted to say that because like I think a lot of people do jump the gun on a lot of these different elite specs, but as somebody who plays a lot of MMOs, and I think we all, you know, have experience with a lot of these different games and this game in particular, it's one of those things where just because something doesn't appeal to you, we have to all remember that there's still a lot of really interesting and valuable stuff coming out of this. And there's a lot of things that you might be surprised by. So leave room to be surprised, you know? Leave room to engage with these and have fun.
Yeah, it's like the dinner table. Leave room. Leave room. The dessert. You know,
more dessert,
it's important.
yeah.
It's important. More dessert. Get it. Go.
And when you leave room, you mean social distancing?
Yeah.
Also that, yes.
Do that. Practice social
I had to.
No, that was good. I liked it.
This
That was
for
good.
dinner.
That was good. What was I gonna say? Okay, so and that in that light, I when you're talking about that, I was thinking about the other MMOs I play as well. Specifically, I want to pause that because I like the trailer. And I was thinking about the modes in Guild Wars 2, and I was at the very least PvP, 5-person PvP and PvE in the different areas, and then thinking about all the different modes, because you know we always talk about 3 different modes: PvE, World v World, and then structured PvP. It was 5v5, 2v2, whatever. But then you've got PvP, and then that's got some different modes. So you've got ATs, you've got 2v2s, you've got 5v5s. Then you've got World v World, which is like different maps, and then you've got which is kind of really just all around mode. But then you've got different roles that you perform, like people like roaming, people like group content, people like defending, sieging, etc. And then you've got PvE, raids, fractals, dungeons, open world, meta events, smaller meta events, you know, and other things I've not mentioned, raids, strike, you know, all the things. So you're not thinking even just about 3 modes, but you're thinking about how Guild Wars 2 does so well. It might sound I'm really, really like just sucking the ass of this game right now, which is like
words enabled.
Words enabled. And don't use real words though. But like it's just an English game probably. And just like it's got a lot to do and a lot to meet in so many different areas, and there isn't many games that do that. And like if I think about ESO does PvE very well in different places, but it's very, very easy, and it's very like I don't know what PvP is it just falls flat. You know, Final Fantasy PvP falls flat. You know, the PvE is very good, story, raids, all that kind of stuff. I can't give you the end game experience but you know, Rook knows the things, Grief knows a lot of things as well. And
I'm making my way.
They're just other, and there are different MMOs where I'm like, you know, there's always one area of the game where I'm like, but even World v World now, they've shifted that focus and they're doing well with all the things. So you know, when we think about these builds and as well, and you think about it and listen to it as viewers, and this goes to Rook's point, which you know took me about 4 hours to get to, but I'm eventually making my way back there. Is when is patience, specifically. And when we have the patience with this game and with ArenaNet, they normally give us the goods, which is why all of us have been around for so damn long in the first place. Probably.
Exactly.
Go on,
May I counter your point?
Counter
is it allowed to have unpopular opinions?
No, there's no unpopular opinions. We're allowed to disagree.
Like, or controversial would be the proper term indeed.
Ooh.
So I wanted to like just show one side of the
always been that way as well.
It has made. While what you were saying is very correct, like they have such a large variety of like game modes, and then variety inside of these game modes, depending on what you look forward to doing or what you're more attracted to. Yet, in my opinion, this has also been part of what was considered to be their downfall earlier on. We managed, despite the variety, to get some very huge content drop phases. And even then, like if today we have a lot of content that we can do, I mean, there are 7 raid wings, there are so many fractals you can do, the dungeons are still around, etc. It feels like they have a tendency to shift from one project that they are going to ship onto the next one. And sometimes you would want them to actually spend a little bit more time on what they're doing, to go to the bottom of it. Like, we got the raid wings that were very enjoyable, and then it moved on to strike missions. While these are very enjoyable encounters, it lacks the ambience, it lacks the lore, it lacks everything that was around in a raid setting. You know, it just feels like it is a watered down version, or maybe just a lighter version of what we could have had. And I think that in what Arnanet is offering this expansion, they need to pay a lot of attention to these details. Like, they're giving us specializations that so far look like they've been well thought. Like, the traits work well together, the traits are in correspondence with the skill. I don't know if you paid attention to it earlier, but like CMC was very hyped about explaining on Untamed, like, you can consume all your conditions, transform all of them into vulnerability, and then there is one trait, if you go Untamed, you remove that vulnerability. So it is effectively a cleanse. If you use the things in order properly, if you play the class the way they intended it with the design. I just want the encounters, the content, everything to be as well designed with that much thought into it. Otherwise, all of this variety will just end up being very surface level. Just like you play it a little bit and you're like, okay, that was nice, but where's the real depth? Where's the real content? Where's the real enjoyment?
You're talking about the content complementing the classes and the specs, right?
Not well that, but also content where you actually have the opportunity to be creative with what you're gonna do. Like, because right now, if you go to a strike mission, you take damage, you bring a healing class, you're gonna make it. Whereas if you want to clear a dungeon or a fractal very fast, you're going to have to think about movement, which class to bring, how it's going to play within the rest. You're going to think, okay, I'm going to need to retreat, to play a different build with different portions of the content. And this is the beauty of the game, and this is what I want to see. So they need to have that variety, but have depth within that variety. Otherwise, it's going to leave a little bit of a sour taste. But that's just my opinion.
That's like, we've talked about that a lot in recent. You're dead on. I agree with you totally. Yeah, I'm like, I think on the general surface level, I'm happy with everything. But like what you're saying is like, there's definitely issues with which we definitely brought up in the past on this podcast. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get into these elite specializations. Well put, Sam, as well. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay, so
kind of like a more high-level overview, look at a lot of the skills and traits, but not.
Spectre was very good.
Oh my gosh, I am so happy to see that they just straight out were like, support. This is about support. I am a support main. I mean, Kroof and I, we've talked about this a ton. We get excited. But
You get a little giddy. You're like,
I just love to see classes that are designed with that in mind, because I do think support is so fun, and it can be really varied and really interesting and give you a unique challenge in the game. But, it can be tough when you're especially trying to ship some new class, and then you've got all the variables within, Guild Wars 2, where you can kind of build different things in different ways. So I was really pleased that they just came straight out and they went support. And then they not only did that, but they brought us an interesting new idea. The visuals are just so iconic looking already. I just think it looks like a blast, and being able to do so much to help a single target and have flexibility within that tether to, switch targets, and then to do a bunch of other things and supplement that with your wells, and then even have with some of those traits, a thing that will give you a bit of AoE, but not dethrone other healing classes that already have a lot of AoE or other things built in. I just thought this one, to me, immediately, I was just excited. I was just excited about it, and it didn't feel like I had a ton of big questions, although there's a lot of things to dig into. I just visually and everything, I just went, that's awesome. I want to play that.
That's actually a good point. Like, questions, like, I don't really, there's obviously the intricacies. Sorry, wow, words. There's the intricacies of the class, which are obvious. We're gonna have those questions, but it does like thematically and how they explained it and put it together, and even in the trailer, like everything, like the communication of that spec was infinitely better than the Untamed. It was just, but I feel like that's the spec thing. That's not the people who are doing the things. I think I think you're right. I mean, personally, I love playing support as well. I mean, I play various roles, but I like bruiser roles as well, and PvP specifically. But like support roles, I try to play everything support, and ESO popped into my head when I was thinking about every single class being able to do everything to a level. Like obviously some classes can be able to do something different and better than others. But there was like parts of this where, my concern is always like, if there's going to be a support in the game that's added in terms of elite specialization, this was my concern about engineer, and we'll talk about that later. It was just like, there's alacrity in here, isn't there? Or is there quickness? I can't remember. There's one of the two. But
There's alacrity.
Yeah. So if there isn't one of those boons, my concern is that it gets pushed out before it's even been thought about. But
yeah, I think there's one that does both.
They actually have both.
Well, there you go. No, that's why it's so good.
That's perfect. Yeah.
Adding it in and being like, there's an alternative to running, this, that, the other, scrapper, or like the fact that they just, I mean, look what happened to raids when they just add quickness into scrapper. Like immediately, there's like people are inserting so many different things. Like we had 2 scrappers in our raids. We had a scrapper and a mesmer. We had a scrapper and whatever else you want to bloody bring.
A renegade,
yeah, renegade. And then
I meant for alacrity, but yeah.
Yeah. But like spreading different classes across the raid, being able to do the same thing with 5 people, not too pretty easily, to be honest. But like it's just a bone. You're giving that bone. How difficult do you want that to be? I mean, it's good. It's just basically good. Like I want these compositions to be better. I don't want to always be looking on the the Lucky Noobs website and all these websites and just be like 5 or 6 of this one class and then do this. And I just want variety. I always love variety in what we're doing, and we always just play what we want to play anyway. So I'm just excited for this when we go into raids as a community and just be like, let's bring 5 Spectres and let's just bring 5 engineers. Screw the
you know what? Actually, Jeb, like you're spot on with what you're saying, because I host the Raid League, the Guild Wars 2 Raid League, once a month. And
cool.
It is a clear case of having multiples of one class. Like it used to be the purple menace, and now it is the deep green threat. It's literally scourges everywhere. And
right, okay, that's cool.
Like, as a matter of fact, this variety is good. Like this Raid League, we started seeing scrappers in the top 10. Like it's
how
been
many?
working.
So
People are playing it.
Do you have one in each party then, or group, or is
like,
it like
or just one global, and then they play around the other classes for the rest of the complex? People are being creative. They're doing something different because the model, like the format, makes it so that they need to be consistent on their kills, because they only have 1 hour to get the best run they can. And this, this is the concept. Like we give them 1 hour, and we're like, we only accept logs within that hour. So you have 1 hour to do the best you can. And this is what is great behind it. They need to play something they're comfortable on, something they know is going to work out, something they can bring to the game, and they're going to succeed with it. And this is exactly what I see this Thief spec becoming. Like the Spectre, that's going to be I'm not going to use the word an instigator, an opportunity maker of sorts. I'm playing around it, but good. Like this is a feeling that I have. And also another thing is I'm speaking in the name of the Thief players, while I am not one myself, but for quite a while a lot of Thief players have wanted that support capability. They wanted to be able to heal, because at the end of the day, if you're going to play around the let's say organized or standardized PvE content, you will want to have about 70 to 80% of your group is going to be damage, and then the rest is going to be heals, buffs. And while Boon Thief really breathed a new wind of life into the game mode for the class, it still wasn't sufficient. Like at the end of the day, it's you're gonna have like a kited Deadeye, so maybe a Boon Thief on one encounter when that works out. But right there, we have something brand new that's going to be present and prevalent in the game mode.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah, I felt that way.
In the line of diversity, though, I love seeing more classes be able to fill the support role. But we'll go into this later as well. But my first impressions of the Spectre is that I'm actually a little worried that they went a little too heavy-handed with this spec and their output. I mean, we haven't tested it yet. This is just from like
do you want
purely
to define,
what they offer.
Can you clarify output?
Oh yeah, in terms of like they bring healing and barrier. There's also now res capability, extremely good.
And condis, the condis are strong.
Conditions
while they're
well.
healing that.
And then I think the worst thing is having a spec that applies both quickness and alacrity. I think those two boons, when paired together in one spec, push out everyone else. We saw it with the Chronomancer in terms of their boon support. Everyone took Chrono because it was alacrity and quickness. And I think that those two boons, when combined, are so powerful that it should be a little questionable when they start being implemented on the very same spec. That's my personal opinion. Because if Spectre just gave quickness, that would allow engineers to bring the alacrity and to have a little bit more variation in like who we can bring. I think right now Spectre could be replacing Scourge and everyone, because it seems that it can now do almost everything. But that being said, to kind of go back to what Rick was saying, the method of actually healing is totally new. And I was really hoping for this, actually. I was talking about it a couple weeks ago, and I was like, next expansion, what if they try doing single target healing or targeting an ally for a buff? And lo and behold, it came the next week. So I was really happy to see that. But with my happiness, in terms of just the efficacy, I could be like, okay, let's just see. We'll have to see how this plays.
Yeah.
I think that's really valid. I guess for me, it'd be interesting then, I would pose a question to you. Do you think that if they decided to put both on, would those potencies have to be low enough that, you would still have call for something that would be able to give you far more alacrity, far more quickness? I mean, of course, that calls into question the problem, if you want to call it that, in Guild Wars 2, where you can bring in multiples of the same class, which we've also talked about. Because then it's like, well, if they have a lower thing, like base across the board, but you bring enough of them, then are you just getting enough, in a culmination? Do you think there would ever be a place in this game for like restricting those classes, like our amount of classes, or even doing something where like certain abilities wouldn't stack with other versions of that ability?
I think you bring up some really interesting topics that I would agree with in terms of I think it'd be fine if a profession or an elite spec had lower intervals of that boon application, is more of just like a top off. But there's also another area of support in terms of supporting the boon playstyle of boon support, which we don't really see that often. And that is a playstyle that extends those boons. So I think having an elite specialization that doesn't necessarily provide those boons, but similar to the Herald, that extends them, not just giving quickness and alacrity, but you want to take it because you have another ally that brings those boons, but you focus on playing with the boons that your teammates provide and you boost them up. So I think there are a couple ways to adapt with the amount of conditions, or not conditions, amount of boons and the interval of those boons.
I like that a lot. Even with something like Spectre that we just got, right? Even if you were able to single target an ally and then like boost the potency of their buff or extend the duration of a buff that they were, applying or about to apply or had active, something like that would be a really fun way to, again, encourage like more variety of things to be brought in, but also to, support what other people bring to the table already.
Mm-hmm.
Like on the topic of what you were saying earlier, but I guess before that we should greet the people who just came in. I don't know. Like Jeb, would you do the honors?
Do your job, Jeb.
I'm not saying anything because I was like, I didn't even have chat on because I was like, otherwise I may like interrupt someone. because I knew there was going to be a raid
we
afterwards.
never do that on this podcast.
Well,
What?
We never interrupt each other or get off topic. So thank you, Jeb, for keeping this a sacred, holy space.
Thank you, Wooden Potatoes, for the raid. There was a ridiculous amount of people. That is very kind of you. Wooden Potatoes, a good friend. Hope you're good, my friend, as well as everyone in the chat who came over, or everyone in the channel. There's Boots as well. One of our good friends.
Yeah, Boots is here as well. Like I just saw him in the chat.
No. It's all good. We're just talking about. We literally started our 27th episode of the LightBringers post guild chat show for the last 3 elite specializations, and we're just pretty much getting started. Although it's not going to be like a massively long one because we've literally been talking during the guild chat itself, but we've got some bits and pieces we're talking about. We're talking quite generally. We're talking about Spectre at the moment, just general thoughts and feelings and all the bits and bobs. But were you going to say something else, Sam?
Yeah, I actually, before we move on, I wanted to, answer something that Kruf said earlier.
Okay.
Or add up to something that Kruf said. On the topic of abilities not interacting with each other in a completely demeasured way, I don't know if you remember that, because since I'm more of a PvE person, naturally I'll have these memories. But there was this one point in the game where there was a bug on Guardian symbols. As a matter of fact, there was one trait that allowed you to deal more damage to enemies standing in their symbols, and that would stack with how many Guardians and symbols you had. So you could very well just drop all the symbols from all the Guardians and dunk on anything within seconds. And Arenanet made a very swift correction to that matter, because it was actually game breaking. So I would expect that if somehow by using the Spectre on top of other Spectres, you can manage to get some completely demeasured effect, like a humongous amount of barrier, or a character, I don't know, with maybe 3 Spectres healing it, whose health would never go down, or something like this. Maybe they would then start tuning it down, or making it so that only one Spectre can have one target at a given time, which could be a very honest limitation and prevent some abuse in World vs. World.
Yeah, roaming is going to be an interesting one. Pocket healers, pocket healing is going to be a thing.
I love a good pocket heal.
This kind of leads me to another discussion of why bring in target healing? And I'm going to be focusing in a little bit on PvE specifically, because I've been playing a lot of Final Fantasy XIV. And in that game, there is, of course, AoE heals, which Guild Wars 2, that's all of the heals pretty much. We're now getting this single target healing aspect. But I want to just raise that. Why are they going in this direction? It's almost like, I feel like the way for this to really shine is if we had more consistent tanking measures with endgame content, like raids or strike missions. Because right now in these encounters, the tanking in this game is not consistent. It's it varies wildly based off of toughness. If you have this buff, if you have this item, sometimes it's completely random. So I think adding this can open up a really interesting opportunity for them to refine the way tanking works in either End of Dragon Strike missions or previous. And I know that Guild Wars 2 was not the game that was based off of a hard Trinity system, but that was 10, 11 years ago. The game has evolved and adapted. And particularly their old saying of, you can play the way you want. I think damage, you can play that. Power in Heart of Thorns, you could fulfill that. But if you want to play that tanking, controlling playstyle, it's really difficult to actually do that. So for the tanks out there, they might not be receiving that much love. So I hope that with this change in healing and support, it could open up a door for them to look at how they design controlling a fight. That's just my little blip.
No, I completely agree with you, right? Because I was thinking about this too, where I was going, okay, so with just the way that many of the fights we have currently are structured, right? The instances in which you might have a single person that is sustaining damage, they're usually very situational. It might be a single role that has to be fulfilled. I'm thinking hand kiting on like Deimos or something, or like, you know, like there's like a thing that you do where you might be sustaining damage independently of the rest of the group. And some of those fights where there might be something that is closer to a traditional tanky kind of role, or that either gets foisted on you because of a marker or because of, you know, things you're able to take or toughness or stuff like that, right? So, of course, PvP brings up an opportunity when somebody's being focused, but in the actual fights themselves, oftentimes it is just massive amounts of AoE damage that has to be sustained through, which is honestly really fun in and of itself, because, you know, one of the things in Final Fantasy XIV that I find doing endgame is that you are meant to both DPS and heal, and a single target heal versus the AoE heals are very specific things that are paced throughout the fight. You know, when you go into it, probably in the first 10 seconds, I'll have some kind of tank buster, I'll have to heal. Then we'll have a burst damage. Then we'll have... So, like, they become these little specific markers where you're using this or that. And then certain fights will sort of shake it up, but it is more formulaic in that sense, right? And compare that to when I first started healing in Guild Wars 2, when I walked in there and I was like, great, so here's my heals. And then all of our health was gone within like 20 seconds. And I was like, what's happening? What's happening? You know,
AoE, spam them all.
It's like, there's AoE forever. What's happening? Why is everyone dead? Which is fun in and of itself. But I think we've seen them play around with things like we were talking about strike missions earlier. We were talking about stuff like that, right? Making smaller fights. And I do really hope that they get into a pace with giving us more raid wings and things as well. But creating these different types of instances, that I think gives you more variety, like you were saying, Kroof, with something like this to go, okay, but now we can do X, Y, or Z. Okay, well, we can evolve this in a different way. We can create something closer to a specific tank. Like in ESO, it's the same kind of deal, but they've tried to kind of compensate with that to some degree with like tanks by adding some various CC things that they can use to just like keep enemies there and then land more hits or chain and pull them. They have a few things, you know, like the AoE attacks that just generate more aggro, stuff like that, where I think you can get a sense of more tankiness.
And armor sets as well, specifically.
Armor set.
Inflicting some kind of condition on a heavy attack, like a vulnerability or courage, which increases damage. And yeah, there's different things. But
yeah, so they can do something like that.
It's definitely more traditional, like, say that, Trinity kind of style, I guess.
Without that idea, I don't, despite how powerful Spectre seems, because it does seem to be so single target, would you really want to take this over a Firebrand or a Scourge with such immense area of effect healing?
We're talking about a part of the game which I am always very, very... I almost feel like this is the podcast where we talk about that kind of high end, where we really care about what we're going to be taking in, and we care about speed and efficiency. And then I remember that I don't care about that stuff and that I just play for sheer enjoyment. And whereas like, I'm kind of glad that Sam's here, because Sam can probably answer that question. And I could probably answer that question as well. It really just depends on how you enjoy the game, right? I mean, I think always to give the most... You have to get, it's when you gate things from people that people start to stop doing things. So if you go into a raid, for example, and you can't take anything but 5, this is just an example, you know, 5 core rangers as an example, and they all give like these specific things which you need to have. I could have given a much better example, but I didn't, apparently. It's not real, it's just an example. You know, and you have to do that, because otherwise you cannot do the thing. That is bad. That is not good. That's not inclusive at all. Raids aren't inclusive as they are. It's just the truth. It's 100% true. The reason I say that is like mostly because of the amount of... If you think about other games and how you can get people into raids and stuff, I'm talking about a systems thing, I'm talking about psychologically, the amount of people I've talked to, and just like in terms of it can be inclusive. It doesn't mean it can't be. It's very much down to communities of people like getting together and doing it. My point is like larger than this small little point. It's just my own opinion as well. So like we can all have opinions on this, and this is something we've all battled with many times, but this is not really my point specifically. It kind of goes toward it. It's important to like think about how we play the game and how we enjoy the game, and you can play raids in any way you really want to play them, as long as you have a couple of specific things. You have some damage, you have some healing, and you have in some specific fights some specific roles, like a Hankaya and Deimos. Like you have some specific people tanking with toughness. You have specific people doing specific roles. You can pretty much play every single raid and get through it. Like you can do that now, and that is a good thing. When we get to the point where you can't do that and you need to take like a Spectre because it's the only thing that's going to be able to single target heal a thing, if that's okay for a fight, it's not going to be okay if it's the entire content, which could be cool if they do start changing other classes. I was going to say, call you Crook again. Cruff again, sorry. And like we were saying about Ranger, like changing some of those abilities, and there could be options through traits, actually. I think that would be a good place where they could change some traits and be like, you are now a single target healer rather than an AoE healer. I actually think that would genuinely be an awesome thing.
Yeah.
But I
Druid revitalization.
I mean, and raids, like there are things they can do to the whole raids thing. I know I can see your face, Rick. There's a disagreement.
Oh, no.
But like,
no. It's not that I disagree. I think you actually hit it. You hit what I was going to say anyway, which is just that I don't necessarily think that Guild Wars 2 itself is designed in that way. I think it's more of a community mindset that reinforces it, which you touched base on, you know?
It's not the game. The game, like in ESO, like there's no raid queue. Tons of people play trials, but they do have one good system in ESO, which does not exist in Guild Wars 2, and you can play trials from level whatever you want. You don't have to be max level in that game to play a trial. You can be level 10, and you can play normal trials and have access to the story. It's easy, it's fairly simple, and you need to know mechanics, but you can access this. You can access the trial, you can access the story, and that's what a lot of people in Guild Wars 2 want to do, and that's what they should do in Guild Wars 2. That's another podcast, but like it is very accessible. That is a system which enables people to get in. And we've talked about Rift and other games I've done in the past, but you don't want to obviously take away the special fact that a raid is a raid, and there should be that feeling of maybe in-game content, but it should be accessible to all classes and all roles. Whether or not you need alacrity or quickness is an additional thing, because cool, you want to kill with like what Sam does, with the speed clears and stuff. People live for that stuff, and I completely respect that competitiveness. It's an awesome thing to watch on a skillful level, and witness and that kind of thing. And I'm really glad that they're bringing some variety to this, because I think, Sam, like when you probably watch some of the raid timing stuff, if you do watch the stuff on stream, if that's something you do, I'm not sure if you do.
We do, yeah.
You do, okay, cool. And you should go and check this out, everyone. When's the next one? How often do you have this?
Well, once a month, and the next one is the yearly finale, so it's going to be the biggest one.
Oh, what date is it on?
We don't have a scheduled date yet, because we actually have, just like today, 4 people on the casting team. So we need to fit everybody's schedule, but it should be towards the middle, second or third weekend of November.
Okay, cool. And make sure you pay attention to that, peeps, because it's a good thing to watch. And it's fun, that it's like watching the raid tournaments T-Bot does and other stuff like that. You can see that different level. And there's different ways you can enjoy the game. As long as you can do that and that's maintained, that's okay. It's just when it starts to get into modes or it starts to get into a place where that is the best thing you should take, and then at high end, it's just going to be like, it's just like that. It's just like that in any game. Yeah. If you can stack a thing that's going to be beneficial and it's going to shave seconds off your time and it's competitive,
people will do it.
It's just the meta, that's where meta comes from.
It's the path of least resistance.
Exactly. Like you want to win a thing, what do? You play with the best stuff. That's competitive nature. And that's just the way it is, unfortunately.
I wanted to add on what you were saying from a community standpoint. Like, naturally, a lot of players go towards the selection of a specific class or specific build because they were enticed to do so by community websites that are heavily targeted at playing at the highest level. And that's one thing that Snowcross has tried to put forward on their website. You know, they were saying these builds are what we play and what we recommend at our level of play. We are aiming for the most efficient clears or the fastest strats on a specific encounter. We're not telling you to play these on the daily, and I think that Mighty Teapot made a very good point by showing these raid kills of like using 10s of the same class, or using a fail-proof comp that's never going to go down and still is going to manage to clear before the boss enrages. Like this is a community effort to go the other way around, because for many years the high-end content, which was supposed to be the more hardcore PvE, was like, I wouldn't say plagued, but like clouded by a lot of players just aiming to get the first. No, it wasn't even gate kept, because you would still get in the LFG.
It is
Girl,
still a little bit
do
gate.
not serve me these words. I do not accept them. Your spit doesn't stick on my body.
And girl bossing?
No, but like jokes aside, though,
Sounds well and truly entrenched in this podcast now. You're definitely welcome back. Good stuff.
Thank you. Like, there were always these chill runs LFG where I had actually had the best of my times, because like I once landed on a group of drunk Germans, and there is very few things as entertaining in life as drunk Germans. No, I swear, like the chat was amazing from start to finish. I spent 2 hours to clear one path of one dungeon. It was the best one of my life, hands down.
See, people forget that. They forget that there's a difference between efficiency and something that's going to be memorable and fun, and that you're just doing, you know? Sorry, Sam, I didn't want to cut you off, so if you have more, please go ahead.
No, I was done. That's your time to shine, girl.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Sam. We should have Sam back again, Jebra. I like Sam.
I agree.
Yeah. I actually think all of this has been really brilliant, because this all got started about Spectre and what Spectre specifically brings to the table that is not in the game yet. And I think it's one of those things where, Jeb, what you're saying is absolutely true. And Kroof, what you were saying about, is this something they're going to retroactively add to other healers, so that kind of like Final Fantasy XIV, like we were talking about, everybody will have a single target sort of ability kit that they can use, and everybody will have an AoE thing where you can target allies, heal them, etc., right? In a more concentrated single way. Or this larger discussion that we're all having, and that, Sam, you've talked about with the design of different things and speed clearing, or things that are, taken in, or how certain things can change up the balance, right? I think right now we're on the threshold where the opportunities that Spectre opens up for like more concentrated single target damage, be that stuff like more robust tanking that's added into the game where you need to heal a single person more, or be that anything else. They could even do something where in a fight, certain allies get targeted with just this one debuff and they start taking massive damage. So you're having to try and concentratedly heal them, or, whatever it is with that, right? They can structure fights around this. But for a bit, we will be in a weird place where the only role that can fulfill that is Spectre. Yeah. But does that mean that they should necessarily keep that forever? No. But do I think that what Spectre brings to the table for that possibility in expanding support and healing in this game in a way that's on par with other MMOs, in regards to how you heal, who you heal, when you heal, do I think that that is valuable and is a direction that would be really fun to grow this game in? Yes. So I don't know. I think it would be great if at some point they did add in a few things for other support classes to have maybe more of that target. Am I okay with right now Spectre being the one that focuses more or shines more in single target as well, so that it opens up more possibilities? Yeah. But I do hope that they continue to develop more things beyond that, It fits with the theme of the class, the single target thief, the person that picks somebody out and then, destroys them or buffs them. But I think it's a larger scale thing in the game they could absolutely implement.
I would agree. And to maybe put a little pin in that kind of in another area of the game, if we do see with the Spectre single target and maybe retroactively in the future, a couple more skills to allow some single target healing, I do think that they should allow more customization with the party UI and the squad UI to make it more movable, because I think that will really be where Spectres in general will probably target, low health allies. And right now it's very locked and rigid. If they allow that to be placed anywhere on the screen, I know they don't like doing that a whole lot, but it is just a party window. I think that is almost necessary to make it feel really, really good.
That's the thing. Oh, damn, this is not a conversation we've had. Oh, Chris. Fucking love your face. Sorry. It's such a good conversation. That's such a good point. Oh, I thought it was gonna be like a random thing. Okay. I didn't say the swearing too loud, thankfully. But it's so true. It's something I've not even thought about. Like they're talking about like changing the rules and talking about changing the way they've done things for so long. We've never even talked about UI changes. We've not talked about mods. We've not talked about add-ons. And the fact that people might be bringing these into the game, the ethos of the game, because a lot of the old schoolness, and I know Colin's old schoolness, still loads of old school people, has gone, and that mentality that I feel like, even though is to be 100% respected and adored for where we are now, but sometimes you need people to take you forward in terms of it's 2021, people need and want stuff. Communication is different. It's not the same as it was 15 years ago. And options are awesome. Like you're saying, like being able to put. And I don't agree with add-ons being. I think you can go too far. I think you can definitely go too far. I think ESO has got this weird, awesome balance where it adds so much to so many people's games. If you look at if people use add-ons and you go to one person's game compared to another, the game will look like the UI is very, very, very personal to that person, and it adds that uniqueness to it, which I feel like people miss a lot in Guild Wars 2. I think it's also. Sorry,
I was going to say it's also an accessibility thing, right?
Yes, absolutely.
I was just talking about the fact that people use add-ons or even shaders for accessibility reasons just this morning on stream, right? And people were talking about how Final Fantasy XIV has like a colorblind mode you can just automatically access. But there's other features with that as well. Like if you have trouble reading certain things or seeing certain UI elements, or there are colors that don't register for you, having that flexibility also expands that.
Yeah, sorry, I just saw the Khajiit one. There is some really, really awesome ones, but that makes sense. Like there is, I've got a feeling there was some kind of police siren going on there. Maybe. But and making the UI bigger and bringing it down, like, because I know as a healer, like in every game, I try and get that UI as close as I can to my buttons, and also just my own health and to other things that I'm keeping an eye on, like buffs, debuffs, character health. Like when I click on them and their UI is like, highlighted and is bigger, and I can see, the damage debuff that's on them depending on which game I'm playing, of course. I want to customize that UI, and like I've always been like in Guild Wars 2 as a support, specifically as like maybe a guardian or even as a druid in raids, I've always been like, oh god, I have to look up there, but then also have to look at the boss who's in the middle at the top to see what they're doing, if they're casting something, if they're doing that ability, if they're doing this thing. And I'm just like, my eyes wander all over the place. And UX design is a lot about locational things, and when they actually like design UX for a lot of games, they look at people's eye movements and how often they have to go around the screen, because people want to look in smaller areas. They don't want to look everywhere because it's annoying. It's awesome.
Like you pointed out, I think that particularly with this class, right? The idea is that there are going to be specific people on Spectre that you are going to want to be healing, buffing, whatever it is, right? And Jeb, just like you're pointing out, when I'm doing stuff in other healing games, so like when in Final Fantasy XIV, for example, because that's where I do the most endgame content currently, like I have those lists and the enemy lists in places that work for me visually. And then I have keybinds. Not only is it easy for me to like cycle through with tab targeting enemies and or lock one target. I wish we had this in Guild Wars 2 so bad, where you can lock a single target so that their health, their ability, their bar, their casts are all visible for you at all times, which is so helpful. So you can do that. So you can keep an eye on what's happening there, and you have an idea of what is about to come or happen. But then with your party, you can also have the binds where, like you're hitting F1, 2, 3, 4, and it's automatically taking you to that party member on like the list that you have to heal them with. In Guild Wars 2, it hasn't been, I think, a massive tipping point yet with this, although it would be way more convenient if you could maneuver it or change it, to some degree, because there is so much just blank AoE damage. When you are healing that, you're like, everybody just get your butts in here or you don't get any heals. Like, you will die. So you stack on me or it's over. So it's not like a lot of times, except for in rare cases, you're having to, you know, just find this one person and do something just to them. So much of it is more visual that, like, even if you have a thing and you see somebody on the opposite side and you're able to range heal, you can hit them with it, right? But if they decide to keep developing like Spectre has done, where it's more of a specific thing, where you're trying to tether to specific people and you're trying to buff specific efforts, that's where having that is going to be vital.
It's going to start. It is interesting. Someone mentioned in the chat as well, like Guild Wars, you could change a lot of the UI and stuff like that. So it is kind of interesting. I think it would be good. I'm going to push us on from the UI stuff because I kind of massively exploded it off of Kroof's point, and I'm sorry about that.
No, I think this is good. It's a good wrap up.
This is a very good conversation. I actually wanted to add a point to it before you wrap it up.
I think Kroof does as well, so we can go to. What was Kroof?
I've had my points.
It's going to be the main conversation now.
Okay.
Actually, what I wanted to add to this is that as someone who played Druid for a very long time in Guild Wars 2, like I think I have maybe 4,000 hours on it, something along these lines. Like it is also part in Guild Wars 2 of your individual skill as a healer to be able to pay attention to the health bars of the squad. Like the bigger health bar did help in that matter. And if you were just able to see the health bars at all time or modify the UI and basically get it served to you, it would remove a little bit of the involvement. What is the correct term for that? There is a coined term in English for when you're like immersed in the game. Yeah, immersion, I guess. It would remove from the immersion as a healer if it was too like visible in the UI. Because if you were, let's say, a healer, if you actually played the game yourself, you would see a comrade with a wound. You wouldn't like see a number above their head, right? And I think that part of the gameplay of a healer is
you really do
move
get
yourself
in
around
the game, don't you?
the target. Yeah, kinda. I'm a sucker for this kind of stuff. Okay, I watched Sword Art Online multiple times, Jabber. I'll have you know. No, but like what I mean for real is like the involvement you have with the game is shown when playing healer by the fact that you're going to place yourself around the players. You're going to move one you know is more wounded. You're gonna like try to cycle around everyone. So it's not just gonna be like, this health bar is now under 80%. Let me click it, and now instantly I have logged the correct player, and I'm gonna be applying some good heals on them. Nice. Served on a plate. No, like that's not what I would want.
I think,
but that's just me.
No, but that's it. That's a good point because not everyone will want that, and that's a good thing to manage, and maybe options are also nice to have.
Like opt in, opt out. That's the beauty of gaming normally.
Yeah. Well, hopefully,
I think that's great because like that's been the years of Guild Wars 2 support. But for the people that would be interested in single target, mostly myself because I've been AoE healing for 9 years now, I think AoE heal and being able to do things based off of the map, we've had that, but we have not seen this yet. So I think if they're going to even introduce it at all, they kind of have to add a couple things to back it up.
Yeah, in this sense, I would definitely agree with you.
Okay, I'm going to push this forward. I'm going to push forward a little bit.
Do it.
Because we're going to be talking about Spectre a little bit more.
We'll just skip Untamed.
I just want to talk about the something I want to talk about. I just highlighted an ability on screen, and not highlighted it, but just paused it. And CMC's face is very interesting. You can't see his face, unfortunately. And if you're watching this, you may be able to watch this on Spotify if you have Spotify. But if you're listening to this elsewhere, we're going through like guild chat and all different specs that were just revealed. Spectre, I didn't even introduce the show very well. Spectre, Untamed, and Mechanist. We're talking about the abilities and stuff. So I'm going to read them very, very briefly as well. There's something specific, mostly main mechanics, not every single ability because that'll take way too long. And they don't even do it. So, there's a reason. But like, a main mechanic thing that's changed obviously with FIFA in terms of, CMC, who's the guy who's like showing off the specs and is made massively important part of the design process. basically called this a support fee for the start. And steel is a big thing which has changed as well. It's still called steel, or is it like it's called siphon, but then it's got steel below it, like, and I'm just wondering
because
if they
that's
keep
the
it
mechanic.
there. Yeah, because it's the mechanic, but it's like you shadow step, but you also do these different things. And the thing is that now you do the steel. When we're talking about ally healing, you steal to an ally, so you've got the enemy target takes condition damage. Obviously, that's augmented by the traits because they're in blue, so that's not all true. Basic ability, we'll find out what that is specifically if we go through the video more in depthly, and also next Tuesday when we play it. But more importantly, the ally target. So grant your target barrier and reduce the cooldown of Siphon. If you're in Shroud, transfer your Tether to the target. So you probably want to go into Shroud first to apply your Tether by stealing on them. My question is, damn, like this is like I don't know what to even like.
No, wrong
is it damn or damn?
Damn or damn.
That second one, yeah. It's like it's like they really did that. Like the steel is completely different. Like it's still just doing the same thing by applying conditions if you want to go damage, but then it's completely giving you this other ability to support, and it's like, wow, this is really, really. Let me just read the thing as well first. Grant your target barrier and reduce the cooldown siphon. If you're in Shroud, transfer thing. That's not the one I was meant to read. Shrouded ally. So enter Shadow Shroud without an ally targeted will attach you to your siphoned ally. Break it if you move outside the range of the shroud. Oh, so that tether, is that like a ranged thing? Like you have to stay in a certain range of them, right? I
believe so.
I don't
actually believe so.
Remember
I
the
think
range.
it would break if you move too far.
That's 1,200. Okay.
Yeah, something you can see that works rather similarly. There is there used to be the glyph of Unity on Ranger, did that, and Shroud 5 on Core Necro also has a tethering mechanic, and if you move too far off, it triggers the immobilize.
So they had the tech there, yeah.
So they already had the tech for it, and I think this is exactly what we're going to be getting, just adapted for the needs of the class.
Oops, I messed it up. I moved. Sorry, I just I emoted very loudly with my face. Okay, no, actually, yeah, we're going. Yeah, you're right. The tech is there. It does actually look different though, which is cool because the tether is kind of like a wavy line, thankfully. But like they can change the graphic of that. But the tech is there, like you say.
Yeah, like you saw that second green line going. That really felt like the Necro one.
Yeah. There we go. Shadow Shroud as well. It's called. I just have to remember that that's what it's called.
Shadow Shroud for the Shadow Stepper.
Yeah, that's right. I'm hoping that he kind of goes over the abilities because I can't remember. There was a stability. No! Right, there's number 2 at least. Kind of. There's a lot of torment in this as well, so it's very Condi oriented damage-wise.
Yeah. Which is what I am actually afraid of, if I may. Because for the people who are watching the podcast or listening to it and who are not exactly familiar with the way stats are being distributed and builds are being made in Guild Wars 2, you generally have 4 different types of stats. So you're going to have 2 kind of offensive stats, then you're going to have defensive stats, and you're going to have the support stats on another end. So the offensive stats, if you want to deal raw strike damage, you're going to want power, naturally, precision to get more frequent critical hits, and ferocity to get stronger critical hits. In the condition field, you will want purely condition damage, which is the raw condition damage you will deal, and condition duration, which is derived from the expertise stat. So only 2 to reach excellent damage. And then the whole supportive abilities are done with healing power, point duration, etc., and then the defensive abilities. So if you take a class that is meant to be a support and to do healing, for instance, and you make its attacks power-oriented, then you're going to have 5 stats fighting together for what is at most 4 stats on one given piece of gear. Because that's the most we can have right now. It's either 3 or 4 at maximum level. So
if it's
power, unless you go Celestial, which is of course nice, but never optimal.
It's mostly a bad build, yeah.
It's actually not bad. That's the thing. It is.
I've heard one person who
played that.
It was mostly, it was a shout out to Boots. Sorry.
To Boots.
I mean, like one person in particular is just obsessed with Celestial gear, and all his builds are bad.
Yeah.
Boots' bad builds are not bad, but but as a matter of fact, you see where I'm going with this. Like, if you give a class healing and you give it a power weapon, that class is gonna have to make a decision to like decide on something they will drop. So it's either you're gonna have raw damage that's never gonna crit, or it's gonna crit but never do much, etc. Like, you're gonna need to make a decision. Whereas if you go Condi, you can afford to have the damage, the duration, and the healing, and an extra stat that can be whatever you want.
You got, like,
and that
plague
is
doctors
why,
and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Which is why I think that the Spectre, the way it is right now, is very strong, not necessarily because of the way it's been designed, but because of the way it interacts with the gear that we currently have and the possibilities for building that we currently have. That
was brilliant. Can I just take a second? I just love listening to you break that down. I was over here like, I know this, I know all of this, but like at the same time, I feel like this is all fresh. Everything I'm learning so much. Sam, go in.
It's good. You should go and watch his videos. I'm telling you.
And that's kind of why I said this almost feels like Scourge 4.0. Like, it's...
I agree.
Taking everything to the nth degree, perhaps. At least with PvP, I could see this maybe being some difficulty here and there.
I think at least the saving grace is that you can't AoE barrier and you can't AoE support.
Yes.
Like, that's the saving grace of that. But it does mean that you can support the support very well. And the support may not die. And then if the support doesn't die, then the team doesn't die mostly. And maybe, but it depends. Like, FIFA's still fairly squishy. There's not a lot of self survival in there. We can go through it, and maybe there was, and maybe I missed it, but let's go through a couple of these skills on the Shroud as well, just so I know, because I missed a lot of this because we were very excited and I loved it. You know, I'm glad that we had those conversations we had, but I'm gonna have to go through a lot of this.
Oh yeah.
And with a fine-tooth comb and be like, you know, oh, there is that. But the second ability, it just caught it as it seems it was kind of going over the top of it. Cal, sorry. Grasping Shadows. Unleash Darkness. This is the second ability on the Shadow Shroud. Unleash Darkness in the targeted area. You know, that already sounds cool. I'm up for that emo world. Or goth world, whatever world you want to live in. Inflicting conditions on foes, and it says cleanse conditions from yourself. So there's some self-survival there. Survivability, while healing and cleansing your tethered ally based on targets struck. So, where is it? Yeah, this feels like a class I was talking about, Defiler from like Cleric, where you can do damage and also heal and cleanse at the same time and stuff. It's not completely the same, but there's some nice ideas here. I'm a little tiny bit confused, and I might be wrong. Is this insinuating that the more targets you hit with Condis and damage you're doing, the more condition and healing removal and healing you do as well? Or am I getting the wrong end of the stick off of this?
I actually believe you're correct on this, if I'm reading it the way you are. It's the more enemies you're going to hit, the more healing you're going to give, which is also a good way of balancing the class, because if you're, let's say, two players deciding to attack a node in PvP, which is a very common use case, you won't be able to overheal your teammate because you're only going to have a single target to hit with your skill. So you're removing one condition and hitting once. Whereas if you're going into a team fight, you get more targets, you do more by yourself, but you also have much more enemies able to dish out damage to you. So it's a way to balance the class built in the skill.
And someone also said in chat, which is very important, Shroud takes damage with what you do, as Shroud does. And I completely, like, the thought kind of went out of my head for a minute that I don't know how I could even think that, because I literally play Necro as well, one of my main classes. So it's like, yeah, that's true. So it's going to be interesting to see how quickly that Shroud goes and like how much time. It's going to be very different in PvP compared to PvE, maybe even World v World.
I'm thinking it's going to work somehow akin to the Celestial Avatar for Druid, because when you have a Shroud on a Necro, it's got like a health bar. It's got actual numbers on it. Whereas on the Druid, you have like a certain amount of force, well, Astral Force in this case, that you consume as you cast skills. And I believe it's going to be exactly the same over here. Like you use the skills, you consume some of that force, and at some point you're not going to have any more of it.
Is it the... I think I'm confused a little bit about the initiative. I guess that's mostly on steel, right? And the weapon skills and whatnot as well. But like, I think I'm interested to see how that initiative works as well. How quick that goes.
Fuels, yeah, they did say the initiative refuels the shadow, so...
Okay, so depending... Right. Yeah, that is the interesting part of this. Where I'm like, wow, look at the... They've got some different kind of effects on just looking at it visually as well. It just feels cool. I just remember looking at the wells and stuff as well and being like, sorry, but like, you know, and just good lord, and just thinking, there's like these spirits like kind of gathering in the middle, like these other kind of ghosts and stuff, and it looks like you're getting these ghosts and stuff together to like have a party. I don't know. To like do a thing. Imagine if they just started randomly dancing. That'd be interesting.
It'd be amazing.
But like the animations and stuff, they just look so good. I was trying to kill time and I'm listening to everyone what you're saying while I get to more abilities on the Shroud. But yeah, it just looks good. But like this first ability, was it Haunt Shot? So unleash darkness in target area, inflicting conditions, or was this the... It's this Shroud, sorry.
And this is the Shroud skill.
Okay. So you heal your tethered ally and grant them might based on the number of targets struck.
This is where we saw that you could actually reach 25 might on a single target. Imagine in a War vs. World setting, the buffing capabilities you could have. So like you clear a camp, you're gilled to the max, and then you literally dunk on whatever passes you by.
It allows like... more power in smaller groups, I guess, like, or in like duo content, or like, or even in like 2v2 content in PvP as well. Like, it's already...
This could be really good on a Willbender. You initiate and you prepare for that assassination of a target.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good idea. That's actually very true.
Oof. Don't start giving them ideas. We need the Untamed to survive. We need the Untamed to survive. Don't give them ideas.
But yeah, Shroud is... Oh, come on. It's the third skill. Oh, he's actually talking about him now. Shroud is one of the main things I just wanted to go through because it's different, because it's a Shroud, you know. Necro's getting some really... Necro's been so influential. Like, to these, like, you know, Shroud. It's been like... It feels like, you know... And it's weird. What was it? The engineer mechanic? What were people
the Fought
saying?
And Forge. No,
not Fire and Forge. Sorry, they were calling something else other than the FIFA Necro, and I can't remember what it was. Maybe I'm just making something up in my head. Maybe it was just Thief. I think it was just Thief. Maybe it was. It's been a long day. Oh no, it was the NG was green. That's right. Yeah. People were talking. There's a lot of green. I think it's just because it's Jade. Like, I remember that was just a random thing. Everyone was talking about engineer becoming a Necro, and I was just on Twitter, like, replying to people like, dude, they've literally been talking about this Jade technology. Calm the F down. Like, it's not another Necro, and even if it is, Necro got elixirs from engineer. Do you know what I mean? We'll swap a bit. It's fine. But how do you all think of
equivalent exchange?
Exactly. How do you all
trade
feel
offer?
About...
You receive elixirs. I take your Shroud.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that would have been cool. Maybe in the future.
That's exactly what happened, to be fair.
But yeah, I mean, what do we think about that? Like, Thief has a Shroud now. Like, Shroud isn't specifically a Necro thing, right? Like, what's the
I just truly... Oh no. Kroof and I are at complete opposite ends of this. Kroof's over here making death noises, and I'm like, I truly do not give a care. I just don't care at all.
I'm gonna pee. You start talking about it. Go.
Oh, I mean, well, okay. This is purely a name thing. I could honestly call it like Oni form or spectral form, or just call it the Spectre. You become the Spectre. Like I can personally do that, so it doesn't really hold a lot of gravity in the actual game. However, because I do pay attention and I love naming of things, whenever I did essays or I write poems, it's the title. So naming certain things, keeping the identity of a particular class, it is something that slightly irks me. But overall, it's such a minor little thing that I can get over it with time.
That's fair.
And a good counseling session from Jebro, I can get over it.
I can't cancel you. That's unethical.
See, I was thinking of it more just mechanically as opposed to the actual technical name itself, right? Like, I do not care at all that they have mechanic that's similar to Shroud. You know, I mean, like, it just doesn't even matter to me at all. Yes, reuse certain things in the game. It doesn't really matter. We have all sorts of transformative states. That's fine with me, and I think this one's really cool. But I do actually very much see your point when it comes to Shroud, because Shroud is a word that usually specifically connotes a cloth used to cover or protect something, an item, a casket, you know, etc. But it's typically used in funerals. It is a funerary shroud. And usually when you use that word, that is the connotation. It's not just like, oh yeah, my coffee table was getting scuffed, so I decked it out in a shroud. It's like, it's not that at all, you know, like it's very much, at least in English, tied to that. So while I guess you could say that as far as the kind of death component of thief in regards to a sniper or an assassin or a, you know, like those themes that kind of tied to it, like sure there's some death themes and the shadow magic and like yeah, but I think they could have picked literally any other word to put in there and people still would have been like, oh, it operates like Shroud, and they would have been fine.
Yeah, I think you went to the mechanic, I went to the naming, but I do like the mechanic. Just the naming of it was a little weird to me.
Sam's holding their chair.
No, I mean, I wanted both to make a joke and to make a remark. The first thing I'm going to say is we also, Rook, looking downwards as she was explaining a definition of a shroud. So I want to thank the sponsor for today's stream, the Oxford Dictionary. That was free. I'm joking. We're sponsored by the Oxford Dictionary. And the second one I wanted to go for is...
Unless you want us to sponsor the show, and then I will welcome that.
Nope.
Oxford Dictionary.
You're done?
Oh, wow.
They probably won't. But,
do you own the Oxford Dictionary?
No, but I was actually more of a Robert and Collins person, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
But, yeah, we all have our preferences.
In dictionaries, yeah.
Please don't mind me.
I definitely have my preferences.
So what I wanted to say about like the shroud is a funerary piece of clothing, but there is also all the expressions that have been used around it, because the shroud was meant to completely cover something that you wanted the people to avert the gaze from. Like, you're not supposed to look at a dead body. You're not supposed to look at death in the face, which is why you shroud it in something. You're supposed to take it away from people's vision. And if you take it in that meaning, the entirety of the shroud of the Spectre makes sense, because it's shrouded in mystery. It evades the gaze of people. It is taken out of the sight of anyone. It's like you're going to a separate dimension. Your color changes. You're not tangible anymore. You're there, but you're not there.
You're going to another dimension now as well. Like, I mean, let's just separate everything out. Let's just go, down the path. I was shrouded in. Yeah. Okay. Well, okay. Do I have an opinion about this? Maybe. Does it matter? Yes, it does.
Then say it. Speak it into existence.
I will state it now. I think they could have just done. I think they could have called it something different, but I'm not overly bothered. I like it. I like the idea. I think they could have it could have easily have just been the Necrospec as well. It could have just been the Necrospec. And they made it more faith. I think, that was maybe a decision. And all in all, I don't think it was the first thing I thought about. And I was like, If anyone needs to go to the bathroom or anything and grab food or anything, please do. And if anyone needs to go, then please let me know. I know it feels like we've only just started, but we'd be...
It's been 3 hours and a half. I'll just put an end limit in at most an hour and 40 minutes. I'll be taking my leave.
In an hour and 40 minutes?
Yeah, at most. Because, I mean, it's past midnight here.
Yeah. I mean, an hour and 40 minutes will be done in that time, for sure.
Okay, then that's all good. That's all good.
Okay, so... Everyone's gone to the bathroom. Everyone's got really nice stuff that covers their chair. I don't. I've just got these.
I mean, this is a gentleman's moment, Jebro. The occasion for us to bring forward the truly manly topics of the situations. And the fact that I am extremely happy that the color is not a light purple, because if it had been a light purple going towards pink, I would not have been able to play this class while identifying as myself.
What? But that's stereotypical. You don't have
exactly.
Pink can be
that's the whole joke of it.
It is. That's true. I love the color. The color's good. I
appreciate pink.
Sure.
I like pink.
Okay, that's good. I'm glad. We can't be pinned down by patriarchal societies in usage of blues and pinks. I mean, no, we can't let it. Like we can't. I mean, we do. I mean, I don't think there's a choice.
Ask Ranger.
I see. So you're more of a pinned down person, and I'm more of a step on me person. Is that kind of what's happening?
Yes.
Great.
Well, we all like dicks and tits.
Yeah.
We were talking about Dick's Burgers and Blue Tits birds earlier.
Yeah, I like that Jebro's over here like, this is an ongoing gag from today's stream.
Because otherwise people would just be like, what the hell are they talking about?
It was a joke from hours ago. For those of you who just came in.
It's still relevant.
We're talking about burgers and birds.
Clearly.
Oh, shit,
if you kept your name, Rook, that could have been a lovely segment.
Oh, it could have been. Alas. Well, we're still Bird of Chess right now, so we can use it if we need.
Maybe later.
Perfect.
Okay, I'm just trying to find this.
Pin down was a perfect segue into Ranger. Do they have a skill called pin down? Is it short bow?
Can't remember.
I thought they did.
Apparently.
Could be Gilbert one.
I can't even pause this video anymore. It's been on for so long they won't let me. That's interesting. Okay, so Shroud is good. Anything else about Spectre we want to talk about? We're not going to talk about everything specifically, like hardcore. Wells? How do we feel about Wells? Wells are cool.
I don't think they all need a shadow step.
Yeah, no, they don't, do they?
No, I mean, I think it's actually a little boring if they all shadow step. You know how you take a cool idea, but then you apply it to everything, it no longer becomes really cool. I think if one or two of them didn't, they'd be fine.
It feels overtuned, especially when you look at Guardian's core skills. I think there were the meditations, like the judge's intervention and the merciful intervention, where you're meant to either shadow step to a target you want to hurt or to an ally you're meant to protect and heal. So this is like, I feel that they went a little bit too far by giving Wells the shadow
Guardian
steps.
doesn't have that many. Like, it has some shadow steps, but not like that many, right? What was that noise?
Merciful intervention would be a lovely single target skill.
Was that you, Groove?
What?
That noise.
I didn't say
what noise.
I thought that was like an noise.
It was like a really loud it wasn't me.
Was that you?
I coughed up a little bit. I don't know.
Was that actually from me? Because I actually moved on my chair. And
right. Okay. That was the chair. It sounded like a Groove
I'm very
noise.
sorry. This is a €30 chair from IKEA, and it's seen better days.
Look after your back, and it'll look after you.
Yeah, no, I feel good about Thief. I mean, yes, I agree. I don't know if they needed necessarily a teleport, but I guess Thief has always been fairly high mobility. And the idea possibly that if you're trying to stay in range of this ally that you're going to be tethered to, also maybe that having more mobility is good for that. But I mean, overall, I feel pretty good about all the stuff we talked about with Spectre. If we wanted to, move along to the other two, we still have to cover.
I know, sorry.
I feel like we get through the Untamed pretty quickly because I feel like we all kind of have
we can just walk through and say meh. And also we could just tiny trait thing I just picked up on the screen. So you can't see the stream, I just realized, because I had to
Oh,
refresh and do the things. So give me 2 seconds. Nope. I should delete some of these flipping
Should I go to
scenes.
Vaughn's looking like this to go get bread? I think I should.
You should go grocery shopping.
If you
like
live
this.
anywhere, like, I think you should just go, yeah. As
Yeah,
long
that's
as
a
it's
good
safe to do that.
Oh, yeah,
no,
yeah,
this
very
is America.
safe.
America,
Yeah.
sometimes there's the safe places, sometimes they're not the safe places.
Exactly.
It's cool. Traversing dusk. So all the shadow steps give 4 seconds of alacrity. So you've got well. That's what you're going to be playing in Rage, right? I mean, it's the alacrity. It's 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. Probably got a cooldown. Boom. I'm good at math. Let's go to the Untamed.
Nice.
Okay, so Untamed, they didn't show the they didn't have the pets ready, and they will not have the pets ready for beta, which
No, but
proof is
one
sad
thing,
about.
one thing that we can say about them is that the theme for the next 4 pets has already been revealed.
Yeah.
You know, they teased about it. So we're getting a phoenix, we're getting a tortoise, we're getting a white tiger. So naturally, the last pet is meant to be a dragon, probably in the wyvern class. 'Cause, like, we already got the fire and the electric wyvern, so it's gonna be along these lines. And naturally, I tried to snipe the name. Like you sometimes saw maybe my screen light up. I was opening like 10 of my accounts and just trying to snipe funny names. I couldn't get the yellow emperor name, which is supposed to be like the central point of these 4 lords, which is Chinese lore actually, where these pets come from. The people who are unaware. So yeah, sadly. But still, we know what the pets are going to be. They have deep Chinese lore connections. I mean, when I say Chinese, they also have an equivalent in Japanese, Vietnamese, and I think maybe Korean lore as well. Like they're very prevalent in East Asia. So that's one other thing we can look forward to. Maybe a lot of lore around the pets, maybe in the way we acquire them. I'm looking forward to that.
The phoenix is also just so cute.
Burb.
Just a little body with his cute little face. And I like his little wing hands.
Sam comes out with the lore and the influences from different cultures and how enriched the world will be. And then Rook's like, I like the little hands.
we exchange positions. Rook is the lore girl. Rook is the lore girl.
Look, I very much appreciate it, and I loved what you said, Sam, because you are right? They obviously carry deep mythological meaning, but sometimes you just gotta talk about their cute little handsies, though.
I gotta say they're real cute, and the phoenix is gonna be my pet. Like that
yes,
too.
There we
for
go.
sure.
Okay, well, somewhere in there
For
as well.
sure.
And the baby
Very
turtle. I'm a turtle person, ARL. I have turtle stuff everywhere in my room, which nobody can see. Okay. Proof. This is indeed a turtle. But
Cute.
it's also measuring tape!
Oh my god, my mind has
There you
been
go.
blown.
Oh, God.
Out
Yes.
its insides.
Everything is turtle in here.
But yes, this I'm very excited about this. I liked that they at least are adding 4 more pets. There's a lot more with Untamed that obviously we kind of already touched on, you know? But those 4 new pets are great. And even if we can't try them out, it didn't necessarily seem like not being able to play them was going to affect the class in any way, shape, or form. So I don't really know. I mean, I'd love to be able to just see them and be able to see what they do and all that good stuff. And it did seem like they have that new sort of pet interface as well when we were looking at it on the stream. So all of that is great, but and their abilities might be unique in the sense of just the 3 that they have there. But it does seem like no matter what, in that Untamed form, they have very similar or the same abilities, and otherwise the class will play the same for the most part. So
A wallow. Yeah, wallow isn't a thing, is it? Or if it was going to be a swallow, maybe it would be a bird. No.
More birds.
No.
That really shouldn't be the case, though.
What, a swallow? That would be a pretty crap pet, to be fair.
A seagull.
It'd be like having, I don't know, what would be an awful pet? Think about it. I'm trying to think about awful pets, and now I'm like,
Caterpillar. No, they're cute.
yeah, but
A
also,
butterfly pet. That would be awesome. Like a giant moth. Anyway, we're going on a tangent.
Well, this is interesting. Apparently, somebody in chat mentioned that a Wallow was a Guild Wars 1 creature.
Yeah.
And I just pulled it up. And it is real weird. Let me be real.
Okay, I'm going to shut up now.
Strange. I'm going through Cantha right now, and I think I encountered a Wallow 2 days ago.
They are kind of scaly. They sort of look like an incredibly plump, compacted crocodile, but with the head of a goblin, but with the tusks of a boar. They're like an armadillo.
Oh, I remember.
Far more
Yeah. You are really describing this. Yeah, of course I know these. Yeah, I've played the flipping game.
I came across them
Yeah,
the other day.
they look like moles. They look like mutated moles with they've got everything, haven't they?
My literal reaction was, "Oh, you're cute," and then I looked at its face. I go, "Oh, never mind."
No.
Put it back. Put it back.
You know what it's gonna be? That pet is gonna be like objectively the best one of the four. Like it or not,
Probably.
you're gonna play it.
I'm gonna only use the Phoenix.
It's gonna be 100%.
I really hope they redesign that massively so that it is something more like a dragon, because I need more wyverns. I would like more, like different wyverns, please.
Oh, we're
and
going to
thank
discuss
you.
about how we say wyvern now as well. Wyvern.
Wyvern.
Correct. Wyvern.
Everybody asks wyvern, but nobody asks howvern.
Oh my god.
That was super
I've
bad.
not
I'm
heard
sorry.
that one before.
I'm gonna
Jeez,
Wow.
It's past my bedtime, okay?
That's fair enough.
I'm
So
allowed to do this.
Untamed, the class mechanic.
Thanks, Chris.
Okay, I guess first impressions. I guess I am somewhat disappointed in the fact that the Untamed.
So Kroof is disappointed, everyone. Did anyone not know? If anyone didn't know, please write on the postcards. Please write on a postcard? This is not the 1990s. Early 80s.
It's okay. It's an okay elite spec. I think overall, more so than anything, I just really am concerned about the crowd control and a balance of this. Because I'm not interested in the idea of the themes. The spell effects are not really eye-catching. The extent at which you can customize the pet in terms of its category. Disappointed as well because they're all the same abilities and only the hammer abilities get changed. So it really is, it almost feels like this elite spec is like 70% complete. I feel like it's missing a lot. So, that's over I'm just really worried about the balance overall.
I absolutely agree with Kroof. And again, this is all within the preface, right? Of us again saying, like, obviously we love this game. We do podcasts on it all the time.
Absolutely.
We talk about it all the time. You know what I mean? So expressing that we aren't particularly wowed by this one isn't necessarily that we want to rain anybody's parade who is. Sorry, there's also a very loud truck going by my window, so apologies if you can hear it.
We can't hear it.
But I feel like it is about 70% done. Like, as far as not
You
even
mean
to say that,
overdone,
like,
or?
no, underdone. It's one of those.
No, okay.
Yeah, no, it's just one of those things where I don't necessarily think that any of it from what we saw looked like it wouldn't play. Like, you can play it, you can do it, absolutely. But to me, as far as like a full package of what I would want to be delivered to me in a new elite specialization, in the aesthetic, the look, the lore, the mechanics, the idea, the concept, right? We talked a lot about Spectre, and I feel like it's kind of unfortunate that this one had to follow up Spectre.
Yeah.
Because Spectre, to me, I was like, that's it. That is nailing an elite spec. That is like making everybody within the duration of 5 minutes who are suddenly like, weren't that interested at first, but now suddenly everybody's like, wait, ooh, hold on, interesting. Whoa, that looked cool. This is neat. What does that do? What are the mechanics? For me, it felt like with this one, it was like a 70% idea that like didn't quite get fully realized in some way, shape, or form. And I don't think that's going to affect its functionality. I don't think, but to me, I'm like, if this was the elite spec, and like I mentioned earlier, if the feature of this elite spec is that your Untamed mode like makes you just beast out, then to me, what would be interesting about this would be that your pets would have different abilities, at least according to types. And then your weapons that you do have would have something, even if it was just like the last key gets changed or the one skill or like something would change when you were in that beast mode, for me to go, this is a full elite spec bringing something totally new to the table for this class, and it's not there. And so to me, it feels like almost like a weird extension. Like, there were some things we knew we needed to address about Ranger. Maybe part of that was just that we wanted to have more pet skills, so you could, do more with them, visible on the bar that you could use with your F keys. So we did that, and I guess we kind of put an elite spec in with it. And like, it doesn't feel to me like this elite spec, like in and of itself.
Is it? Do we know though, like 100% that that's what the pets are getting, that much control? Because if we're not, then that is part of the spec. This is
if
something...
it's not, the community will complain enough to the point that they will change it to be. Because that is,
that's
I think,
the thing, right?
needed.
I don't actually agree with it. Because
I think that this
Ranger pets are horrible as it is.
But it feels worse to play because you have to rely on the automated AI to do it. At least now they won't do it until you trigger it.
I mean, you don't necessarily have to, like, the way the attacks worked on the pets. You have like the F1, F2, and F3. Well, I mean, you have like 3 skills on the pet. The second skill. The second skill is the one that you can cast as you want. The first one is the auto attack, and the third one is actually being auto cast when you swap pet, and then when the pet decides to do it. So they have to give that control over the pet to Core Ranger and Druid. If they don't do that, I think that they've completely missed the point of what Ranger players have asked for many years, which is an AI that works or complete control over the pet, which is option 2 and the one we should be getting right now, because the AI is not working.
It's the reason I'm hesitant is because of how strong some pets are in the game in competitive modes, because they are pretty horrible.
I mean, but a good smoke scale combo,
Yeah, that's nasty. Can you imagine the smoke scale and then the takedown? Having the takedown as like a commanded thing would be awful.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine that. Yeah,
that's true.
I know you can. That's why it's smart.
Balancing as well. Part of me feels like it's worse when you don't know that the person creatively and skillfully did it. The fact that it's completely automated feels worse. But now that you actually can cast it, they can actually put some cast times on this, where like you have an animation where you point at a target to at least allow for it to maybe get interrupted or something. I don't know how great that would feel in a lot of skills, but certain powerful skills like Smoke Assault or something that like is really debilitating, like a really powerful knockdown, they could add these small, that it's not completely AI run, some small little half-second cast times to maybe interrupt it.
It is making me. I think I am being quite biased because of my sad experiences in PvP. Probably, I will agree with you both. I will agree with you all. I agree. Okay.
I will.
I
will.
His will bends, just like the specialization.
No, it does not, because that would not be good. I don't want to be bending anything like a will bender.
And I mean,
I would be unfortunate and sad.
We already talked about this a bit, but conceptually, I also just want to say this is not doing it for me. This class is just not doing it for me. Like, I want to be completely honest. I mean, we already touched on it, right? But like,
would the stink area?
This is stink everywhere. You just look smelly, and
it looks like a fart bubble. It's like the pet just went, and it was like, and poison.
Which is like, look,
bullying the kid. It's already on the ground.
Sorry. Here's the thing. I think that if you want to have a fart aesthetic, that's fine. But usually that's going to be
Fartcore. What? Are we just now putting?
Oh my god! Oh, that was a really good crew. Oh my god!
Wait, what did you say? Fartcore.
I said fartcore.
Like parkour.
Core is like an aesthetic or like a vibe that someone has. It's like a mood board that you live by.
Okay.
Like, if you want to have something like that is tied to like a fungamancer, like fungimancer or something, right? Where it's like you're doing fungus, like fungal spores. Yes, like you're doing spores, or you are all about the aesthetic of like you're a bog witch. So, like you're spreading the toxic fumes of your bog. But what is this class actually about? Like, Indigo walked us through it. And the concept was brilliant, where she's talking about, do you remember this character and the corruption that happened in the land? And then this character like was connected and was like an actual physical manifestation of the Echovald Forest's like consciousness, collective entity, right? And then it got corrupted and it went completely feral. And then there was this part of the forest where it just went wild. I do not get literally any of that except for the color green and the one skill that uses the vines. You know what I mean? Like, if this was really about becoming like an unhinged primal feral thing, like I want the fury of the forest. I want this like, I say madness in the sense, not in a way that has really, you know what I mean? In like a fantasy world, right? This idea of like like something like that, where it's like, it's this primal furious beast. It is this protective, defensive, wild thing. And I want to see that. Like, if that's the fantasy, then that's the fantasy that I want to see in this class. And when, like we were talking about this earlier, like the idea of even having some representation, like a tree form or something, or like you get these big old claws on your hands and then you're like tearing into foes, or like, gosh, whatever it would be, even
like
if the hammer.
Fawn,
like,
your weapon becomes like a new model that's like distinct for
or
it.
like think about like, you know, think about the transforms and stuff that would have been possible. Like you're talking about, it could have, it already had spirits. It could have turned into like a spirit and like had this transform. Wow, Jesus, right? I know we're emotional by it, but there's no need to smash your microphone. But like anything, like, I had a really good idea, then it just popped out of my head. But like Sam was talking about, and you're talking about the weapons transforming, but conjured weapons, that's what I was gonna say. Like conjured weapons, like, you know, thinking about Ellie and other stuff, probably better done, because they were not great, but they, you know, for your boots you can turn them into something good. Apparently, but like you could just pull out like like, you know, all of a sudden your arm becomes a shield, I don't know, and you've still got your other weapon as well that you're holding, or like there's something else attached to you that grows out with like a utility or something, like you say, like something a little bit more fantasy, something more extra, you know, that's not just core ranger with some fart bits. Because it kind of does, and like, that sounds really awful. And I feel really bad. Like, and I know we feel bad about saying it, but it feels like there's a mark. There's something like the person who's obviously, I'm not sure if there's a communication. I'm not trying to rip into the people who have designed the thing, but I think we can be critical and say to, like, you know, it doesn't. And like I said before, it doesn't mean the class isn't going to be good and like you can't play it and you can't be effective in the game. But as a person looking in outside, looking at this thing, it's not going to be like the wham bam, I want to play that thing. It's probably going to be more of a down the road. It plays really well and it has specific, you know, roles within different game mechanics, modes, whatever. And that's why it's going to be probably quite strong, and it probably, you know, could be the best class for all we bloody know. But like looks wise, like, you know, I'd rather not. Like I'd just rather not.
And it doesn't even feel like, if they were leaning into that corruption element specifically, it doesn't even feel like that's fully committed to me at least, you know. We have that one that creates those toxic pustules and then they like explode.
That was actually the most attractive part of the class,
and it has nothing to do with the corruption unless like the lore wise, but like
even that, if like when you had it you became all gnarly, like, and then when your pet had it they get all gnarly, and like there's like you like exploding, like that's disgusting and I hate it, but even
and
that,
I love it.
it's like that's an aesthetic and a theme, and I think Echovald in and of itself is so stunning. Like the combination, when you look at the art they've done, when you look at the ideas that came out, like, oh my gosh, I love this zone. And I do not feel like this evokes that zone for me. You know, it doesn't evoke that to me personally, just personally.
And kind of growing, mind the pun, on that point. It's like, where is that druid, not druid, but where's that ranger aesthetic, that untamed aesthetic of like, erecting a tree to like bind someone, or like enclosing someone in a Venus flytrap, or these other natural elements. And additionally, that kind of connects to the utility type of cantrips. I now just realized I forgot that these were cantrips. I thought they were like stances or meditations, because there's nothing physically magical about these. There's only like one skill that summons a vine cage around someone, but they really just feel like self buffs again, similar to the elixirs. And it's not you don't have to make cantrips be physical manifestations of magic, but that's kind of what they've always been. And I was really expecting, like, you have a cantrip that summons a wall of vines that foes can't pass through and it destroys projectiles, or like you summon like a blighting pod, because Mordramoth, let's not forget about the jade magic. Maybe, you know, they pull on Mordramoth's magic. You actually put someone in a blighting pod and you do a bunch of like cool, crazy effects to them. But these really just felt like stances in a way, because you're cleansing the conditions, you're just preventing yourself from dying. So that part I just realized I'm also fairly disappointed in.
I guess if I look up cantrip though on the wiki, it does say it's a skill type that enhances the character's survivability.
Which is the way they work on Elementalis, to be honest. Like, if you look at the cantrips, you have Cleanse Condition, Vapor Form, the Stone Skin, and I don't remember what the last one is.
I think you all brought up a brilliant point about this earlier. You can
transform into a tornado. And then Thief got cantrips. And then, like, Thief, you become a cantrip where you shoot out magic.
That's
so
true.
It's a little...
They're not, like, specifically... Like, Armor of Earth is pretty cool. They're all quite cool to look at, right? You know, the heal's quite effective. And
cantrips are also commonly associated with things like D&D, where they are meant to be, like, a quick-use spell that you have memorized so thoroughly you can just use it at will kind of thing.
Sure.
But I wanted to bring up the point that I think you all made, and Jebro, you made really clearly during stuff, which is that when we looked at their classes, you did so great, Jeb. One time you said something really quick. No, I'm kidding.
Someone wants to come back, eh?
Yeah.
Rick has been here the longest. We're not getting rid of Rick. The only way we get rid of Rick is when they change their name.
Oh, right. Yeah. And then you never have me back again because my whole brand. Yeah. No, I get it.
Yeah. Hair color change. Oh, wait. No, you're shaving your head, aren't you? Because it look more like a rookery.
Would it? A rookery is a bird's nest. You'd think that my hair would just have to be big and wild.
I was thinking more about a rookery, but...
Okay, all right. Great. Well, Jeb, I take it all back about the one thing you said one time that was actually coherent. Jeb's never said anything useful, and I think we should move... No, I'm kidding. You were great.
I'm firing myself.
Bye, Jack.
What I wanted to say was, we talked a lot about the different classes, and you all have brought this point up really well. What were they lacking? What were they missing? What didn't they have? And while not every class, I think, has to reinvent the wheel, and not every elite spec has to, right? I did find this one kind of strange, because it felt very much, at least to me, and maybe I'm interpreting this very wrong. Some of you are far more adept when it comes to actually breaking down the specific nitty-gritties of these kinds of classes, but to me, it felt like just pretty much what I already do. Like, I got that, but it's like Entangle when I'm playing Druid, and then like this one, you know, it was like maybe it's more concentrated in a sense. Like there may be, but it didn't feel to me like this was I've never done that before on Ranger.
Druid feels very much like it is just more connected to the forest anyway. Like it just feels like that was just like, they could have got, I'm still really sad that Shaman wasn't a thing. Like Shaman totems or something, or Shaman with like, I don't know. I'm still sad that wasn't a thing. I'm sad that Sam's idea wasn't a thing. I'm sad that I still do feel like there is going to be, I feel like he's going to be really where they're going to have balance issues with this, with some of the skills, the heal, the stability, like the permanent survivability of a damage class is such an intrinsic awful problem in Guild Wars 2 PvP combat that has been around for so long that this lesson is not being learned is making me sad in the face continuously, because having a class that can survive so well as a damage dealer defeats the purpose of roles in smaller mode combat. Like, you know, you want to be, if you're gonna have PvP, it's like in MOBAs, like you have a class that does damage, it needs a weakness, it needs to have a weakness, it needs to not be able to survive well, because its role is damage. If you are a support, your role should be a support. I know in 5v5 they took away specific support amulets and stuff like that, but that's because, you know, there's intrinsic issues with the classes in the game, so they're trying to get rid of the stats instead of fix the other things. So now it's going to be this point where we're at, like, you know, a range is going to be unkillable, it feels like. And also, like, maybe content is just going to be a little bit easier as well, like in terms, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, you want people to get through the things, but at the same time, I'm like, does everyone kind of understand what I'm talking about? Like, I think there's just some
totally
implications of like balance already that is already concerning me with not only this, but with the other, with Spectre potentially, and not so much engine, because at least there's like a break bar on the golem, and that feels like a good stop, like a full stop, to be like, you know, at least we can just get rid of it. We can get rid of the thing. But yeah, there just feels like there's traits in here where I'm like, you're gonna have problems with this, and I can see the problems myself, and I'm wondering why. I would love to just be like, where was this not a thing where you're thinking this is going to be an issue? Surely.
Particularly, I mean, I totally agree in terms of like the immense amount of survivability in conjunction with what seems to be a lot of crowd control and debilitating conditions. But particularly, why have they seemed to really enjoy just giving the spec health? Like, you get 240 plus vitality for what seems to be no reason. They're just like, you just get more health with no trade-off.
It's
so
lazy.
If you're going to do something, it is partially lazy, but I think you can make it interesting where I wish there were more traits like this, where you gain a specific thing with that spec. You gain health. So you're like a tank bruiser, but you reduce your precision or you reduce your ferocity by the same amount.
That's okay.
There has to be a trade-off to not be like, we're just making you easier to play.
It's the farting. Roll. That's the trade-off. It's the permanent stinky things.
Like, we gave you awful visuals, but numbers-wise, you guys are fine.
You literally, like, you can stay in places for longer, but there's more smell.
So if they did something like that, trade-offs, more of that.
I think it's just very lazy design to give as a trait a flat stat increase. I think that it's actually bad. Like, they could have done better, and they should have done better.
Stat increases are okay as long as you trade off. Like, I feel like, because you're playing around with a stat difference, like Cruz said, like, you know, if you do that, I know it may sound lazy, but there's a lot of traits in Guild Wars 2 that can do. Not everything can do something as long as you're doing that. I think some stats are okay because sometimes you do want to spec into something, and this is just going to be an opinion thing, really.
Just add vitality as a percentage of something, like the traits usually do, because this forces you to make a trade-off. Like, you take a build that has no vitality because it converts from precision, for instance.
Yeah, like, as long as you put that in.
Because why is it a minor trait? If they're going to do this, don't make them minors. Like the Harbinger, they get 360 increased numerical stat health. And so you don't have to actually decide to take it. It's just automatically better in that regard. But while I'm okay with that, if you're going to do that, just give it a trade-off. Give it something to where we know that we are designing this spec with more health in mind. Granted, we're going to take away some crit damage or something along those lines, or you can't do as long boon duration. And I think that is kind of what would be nice for more elite specs to have, because we are getting into this world with multiple sets of elite specs for each profession, to give you more of a reason to say, okay, this one already is kind of like the bruiser one, so I'm going to definitely take that. But then I want more damage, I'm going to swap to this spec. It might incentivize actually swapping specs a bit more.
I think, I'm looking at this. I was just thinking random out of context for a little bit, but I was like, I wonder if any of the people who designed this actually play Ranger as their main. Because I was like, you know, some of this stuff must have like an impact on design sometimes. Like when you're thinking about, like at times when you're like, you know, I really love this class and I'm working on this class and I'm going to be like, Carl absolutely adores Necro. Like he must do. Because every single Necromancer, all right, I'm not a massive fan of Scourge, but at least Scourge had some strength in it. And it was like, you know, I'm not massively into it. I love Reaper. Reaper is amazing. And Necro, in all honesty, is just a fantastic class. I love it. Like Engineer. I was just thinking randomly on the top of my head, I was like, I wonder if anyone actually likes playing Ranger. Because this doesn't feel...
Actually, I do, but...
Not you, but like who
nobody
works...
at Terranet does, obviously.
It was just a random thought. I didn't want that to sound as awful as it probably sounded.
No, I mean, No, because actually, I am of your opinion, and I think I'm gonna try to sum up my opinion of the Untamed rather quickly. The first thing I must say is
don't use 5 words, honestly, please.
No, I won't use 5 words on that. Like I agree with what you all have said on the first point, being that there is no visual incentive to pick up the class.
Mm.
When you see the Spectre, that shroud looks dope. Like we still haven't decided if we like the name, but it's visually pleasing. The same way when you saw the Willbender animation, like the Willbender plays like a wet sock and you're trying to flap a mosquito with it. It's just not the right weapon, but it is visually pleasing.
You fly around.
What are we going to equip ourselves with versus the mosquito today? Well, actually, in this build video, we'll show you how to design a build and be effective versus mosquitoes in different modes. Go ahead, sir.
Like, I mean, you see what I mean. However, like there are some classes that are just visually pleasing. Like you see them and you're like, okay, yeah, I wanna do that. Like when you see, I know that none of you is a hardcore player, but when you see
wow,
Elementalist,
whoa,
let me rephrase that.
None of you are hardcore or good players of the game.
Sorry, please.
I've only been commentating Guild Wars 2 PvP professionally, literally getting paid for it. You know, I'm not a hardcore player.
Sorry.
By an esports organization.
I've opened the gates of hell. Jeez.
You have some very huge, amazing professionals right here.
Let me rephrase
You have a potential award winner in the house as well, like in Rook. You have the legendary artist, build creator, and all the stuff and the things, Kroof, and then there's me as well. And I was commentating PvP professionally for many years.
Okay, let me rephrase that. None of you are into hardcore PvE.
I mean, we play raids as well. We play all the things.
No, I feel like he means hardcore in terms of like time. Like you're going for the best.
Do you mean we're not in the raiding leagues and etc.?
No,
yeah, we're not in the raiding.
Just winding you up.
It's the raid league. We rebranded. We removed the ing. Either way, what I meant is you're not quite hard into that, but if you were, okay, let me finish.
Hold on. I was gonna say, I think what's happening here is
what I meant to go for is there is a certain form of aesthetic when you are watching a DPS rotation being perfectly executed. And I know that only hardcore PvE players would find pleasure in watching a perfectly executed Elementalist rotation. Like, I watch the Elementalist hit the column and I'm like, holy cow, this is beautiful. Because it flows naturally, it's clean, there is no downtime, there is no failure in the casting, there is no interruption, it just flows. And I think that only a hardcore PvE player would actually look at this and be like, yeah, this is cool and I like this.
Yeah. No, that's kind of what I was saying earlier, yeah.
Yeah, and this is what I mean by there are some classes that are just aesthetically pleasing. If you just show someone an Elementalist doing a perfect rotation and the stink fart fog, whatever that is, the same, they're gonna look at the Elementalist and be like, yeah, this flows, this is looking cool, there are so many elements, so many colors, this is beautiful, I like this.
I like the words you're picking right now.
Fog is just bad.
The flow of the fart, the flow, the gaseous flow, making sure that's readily available. I get what you mean. It's kind of what I said as well. Yeah, it's like, you know, I mean, like I said, like there probably will be this epic class, but like, you know, visually pleasing and everything else. There seems to be like they could have just, you know, there could be a balance there somewhere of at least, you know, let's put in some non-fart orientated abilities.
Yeah.
Because
so, well,
like, I don't know.
This is the first point I wanted to make, is it's visually unpleasing and there is no incentive for someone to pick it up based on what they will or see of it. Like they will look at the effects and they're going, yeah, I don't want to play that. So that's the first point I wanted to make. The second point I wanted to make is in regards to the skills. which I feel are very underwhelming. And that's coming from a ranger player who wants to defend their little ranger boy, and I will hate all the other classes if I have to. It means I can put ranger on a pedestal. Okay, that's how much I love my ranger. But as a matter of fact, if you look at core ranger, I might be mistaken, but I believe so far the only type of skills that has been exclusive to a class and never used by another, on top of gyros, of course, but that came later on, are the spirits for ranger. We don't have another class with spirits.
Consecration.
Thank you for the shade you've thrown. It's already dark around me, so it has no effect.
Is there a Spectre there, or?
Yeah, that's I'm role playing, okay? But like,
good. We already know you're a role player. This is good. Carry on.
Yeah, jokes aside, however, when Ranger came out, it was very underwhelming in everything it could do. It was actually not taken in dungeons. It was not exactly shining in PvP either. It was, well, not quite good if you wanted to roam in Warder's World. The only real thing you could do is you could like take around the spirit and it would give a buff, and that was not too bad. Then came along Druid, and you get Grace of the Land, you get a Glyph of Empowerment, you become the best healing class in Guild Wars 2. There's so much going on, and it's for the others. Once again, Ranger doesn't shine on its own. It needs to reflect the light from something else, just like a mirror. But the Druid got kind of gutted later on. Grace of the Land got turned from unique buff to just gives might, and Glyph of Empowerment got scrapped from the game. There were no more. Soul Beast comes up. It's good damage, good stuff, but the reason why you would take it, it gives you a spirit, it can share the stances, it can do all of that, or you can just play PvP on its own because it's a survivability machine.
Mm-hmm.
And then comes the Untamed, and you literally have stuff that only works on you.
Yeah.
Like, what's the logic in the
and
design?
Your pet.
Like,
and your
so
pet.
far, yeah, and your pet. Like, the pet is an extension of the Ranger, Mr. Bro. But
it is. It is. Mr.
It is.
Sam.
However, like I wasn't joking right
At least
there.
I can call you
Gotcha.
Mr. Sam, and that would actually be quite cool. Mr. Bro sounds like a very
Mr. Bro, yeah, like yeah,
toxic masculinity.
It doesn't have to be toxic.
Mr. Bro,
Like, Mr. Bro,
Right.
but like, I mean, you don't have hair on the top anymore, so it's just a bro.
What does that mean?
Easy.
Whoa, that was good! That was good!
That was good. That was good. That was good.
Criff, I've liked you today. Don't get my bad bits. Criff. That was good.
So far, the logic of Ranger is you bring stuff for other people, and right there you've got the most selfish demonstration we've seen of all the specializations so far. It's literally doing things for itself and the pet.
Isn't that
So
okay
that's-
though? Like, can we not just have someone who does damage? Isn't that an okay thing as well? Or is that the role that you wanted to play?
Yeah, but like I feel like the damage is not gonna be that crazy. Like I actually had that conversation on Discord just about a week ago, and it was a very cleaving conversation. Like there were two very different opinions clashing with another around it. The discussion was, why would you bring an elementalist into a raid setting over any other specs? And so we said, like me and the mate I was agreeing with, there's no reason to take an elementalist. Why? Because it's squishy, it's hard to play, like objectively harder to play, and it's less survive. Like it's got less interest for a group as a whole. It doesn't bring any buffs, anything specific. It doesn't have anything going on for itself. Whereas you take a Scourge, you can rest people. You got so much shroud. You're literally immortal. You give barrier. You cleanse. So much good stuff. You take a Firebrand. You can give the quickness. You've got boons. You've got damage. You've got everything. And we just said the Elementalist should hit harder than anything else because that's literally the only thing it can do. Like, if there's anything defining it, give it more damage than the rest to make it stand by itself. And so when I look at this specialization, I don't feel like the damage is going to be anything overwhelming. The only thing it looks like it's going to be crazy in is CC.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there are so many other classes that have powerful CC. Like, Sanctuary on Guardian, literally strongest CC in the game so far. Like you put the bubble down. If you have an enemy mob in that bubble, you will destroy the break bar. You'll eat it, like the cereal bar you had earlier on. And there is no thing this looks like it's gonna excel in, and it doesn't bring like stuff for others. It's selfish. It's selfish and it's not good. Like when I look at this, I'm like I can't find.
It's selfish and also it's garbage. It's a garbage file.
I didn't say it was garbage. I said it was not good. No. Hey.
Oh no, we heard you, Sam.
Remember.
We heard you. You said garbage. It's fine.
No, it's called garbage can, not garbage can't.
Wow.
That matters. Like, I know it's cheesy, but it's true.
Are you a parent?
That's how I live my life.
I mean, I thought these were like parent jokes, like dad jokes. I'm just wondering, are you a parent? Are you a dad?
Not yet. Otherwise, I would already be in bed. Like it's 1 a.m.
I was gonna say maybe.
But like, when you look at it, it doesn't have much going for itself. Like it doesn't look overwhelming in any aspect.
I think,
and it doesn't bring much to the table.
Yeah, I think
I'm confused what they were trying to make.
Okay, so I will round it up. Sam doesn't like it.
I mean, facts. I wanted it to be better than this. I will still play it because I think that it's got a lot of niche uses, but I don't see a generic use case for it. Now, on the topic of pets, I am sad. There are families of pets that work with Soul Beast, like you merge with a stout pet, you merge with an aggressive pet, whatever. And here, all of the pets get exactly the same skills when you go Untamed. And I'm like, why did you bother classifying them as families if you're gonna let them down like this? Generations of scientists have created the species system.
Sam, yes, okay,
today we're let down by the Iron and the devs. There you go.
You're talking about engineer. Yeah. I've got to pee so bad again. That's
because you're laughing too much, Jeb.
I don't know, maybe. Go on, Rick,
I did want to say that. Sure, there was just like one thing, because I see in chat too that people are like, I love Elementalist, I love playing. Right, so like again, this is all within the context because none of the rest of us are hardcore Guild Wars 2 players. So Sam is just saying that for those who are, no, I'm kidding.
Yeah, I am addressing a minority, but it's the minority I appreciate. I love you all.
But the idea being that like when we're looking at like the full spectrum of stuff in a game and everything that it offers from highest end play and or the ways that communities are probably going to use this data and information down to, and I truly do not believe anybody is superior to anything. I love casual content. I love endgame content. I love playing the full range. I love diving into games in so many different ways, right? So the idea being here that like when we're looking at how players may use this, discussing these things, again, there are certain niche contexts, mindsets, communities. There are certain discussions where, again, you're looking at it from more of an objective stance, just like, okay, well, if I'm just looking at this numerically or I'm just looking at this thing, then what does this mean as to like why somebody would value this in that kind of regard? But like Elementalist is super fun and has a ton of flair and it's really cool. And I do think there are some cases where I found that its sheer amount of healing, at least when you get into other stuff later on, can be really helpful. And there's cases where you can bring it and make it work, right? But I think it's interesting to hear these talked about in that way too, in this regard of like, again, yes, what is this niche? What is this thing that this will fulfill that across the full spectrum of content, people can say, like, if you're shouting out, what does this do better than other classes? I'm curious. If you don't have a huge answer to that, it can be kind of tough for people to identify or define what is this sort of class? How would I use it? What would I want to do with it? What would be something that would make it strong or make me choose it in this regard over something else? So I don't want anybody to think that like we're just writing off all the classes in the game. You know, it's not that. It's just that I think this is something that's interesting in regards to this elite spec. What does it do? Again, you know, it is this intensive thing, this buffing of this pet and yourself, like you were saying, Sam, so strong that DPS wise, yes, that trade-off to a wholly selfish gameplay is something that will stand up alongside other like main DPS classes. Maybe not. So then like, what does it do? Or how do we get to a point where it feels unique, distinctive, and there are certain selling points about this class that will really make it something that people will be able to cater their play around if they want to pursue that in a way, you know?
You know, if this was a tank and they further elaborated upon tank playstyles, the Untamed could be a brilliant tank in certain
I agree.
situations. Like
I
if you
do
were
agree.
a tank and the boss has aggro on you, you deal 10% increased break bar damage or something. So you incentivize that play. That would be a really great area for the Untamed to slot into. But we'll have to see if they ever decide to go back and change that. But that's all I have to say about that.
We're going to engineer now.
No, but I agree with you. Yeah, let's go to engineer before I fall asleep. Let's go.
All right, it's not gonna be that long, peeps.
I feel bad. This is your main, Jebro.
Well, I feel bad that everyone's like been here for 4 hours, so.
I'm fine.
You shouldn't feel bad. Fun has been
like
had.
that.
This was great.
I
Indeed.
have nothing else going on today.
No one else has a life. It's okay.
See, why Jeb is okay with this is that Jeb actually has a 3-part series coming out soon that he's going to subject us all to. A 3-part episode podcast where we will only be talking about engineer and...
Wow, you ruined the surprise. Yes, completely. Next week, or next week's going to be a plays episode. Week after could be that episode, though. Yeah. Different times. No, it's a joke. We're not going to talk about it.
Live your dreams.
If them all. I'll just do my own thing on the YouTube channel, and I can just talk about whatever I like, and I'll just be like, yeah, aliens, and loads of stuff. Just don't even talk about engineer at all. All right, so just one point. This trailer was probably the best trailer, and just I'm not biased at all, but like. It was the writing, it was everything. It was just the mech looks good. They showed off a ton of abilities of just the mech alone. And actually, to be fair, they kind of left the engineer off to the side a little bit itself. So that's the only thing I can be like, but it was just, I think, the one thing I really like about this is it is very much themed around the expansion and the Jade. And that is a theme they have rolled with completely into the engineer. The Jade has flown, it's just flowing through this class, and it means it has that link to End of Dragons. It has that link that we're missing with Ranger and maybe some of the other classes as well, like Catalyst and other bits and pieces. But how do we feel about this? Like, we don't need to talk about the trailer and everything else, but talking about just the mech and like right, so we got mech, we got signets, we've got break bar on the mech, we've got the mace as well, we've got loads of bits and pieces.
Delicious, so well
It's delicious.
seasoned.
It's a whole meal. It's just served up.
I just got hungry.
I know. But I guess for my first impressions, I noticed that a lot of almost all the traits focus on the mech, not just yourself. So it is very focused on the mech. And if they were going to add the mech and take away the tool belt, that's kind of what they needed to do. So I was really happy to see that every single trait, I believe, interacts and changes the mech in a certain way. I like I like the signets, but the only little issue I might have is with the area of effect pressure of barrier and the support applications, because it is very large. It's almost like Sans Savant trait on Necromancer, but just baseline a little bit bigger. Or is it 360? It might be 360. So it's like,
I can't remember.
it's there most of the time. I guess
Wait,
it is.
which one is there all most of the time?
The Golem in a PvE setting. For the most part.
Well, that's the spec.
That's the spec.
It bloody well
But
better
what
be
I'm
all there all
saying-
the time, we said.
Yeah, it should be there all the time. But in terms of
this
the
spec is
effect,
called here is a mech standing next to you most of the time. It actually isn't. So have your money back if you want, throw it in their face
But
and get out.
having the Golem, having the mech up all the time is perfectly fine. But in terms of the support pressure, I don't know if the radii will be changed in World versus World or in PvP or even in PvE. You could make the argument that there
Boundary
could
World's
be
going to be a
turning
fun
points.
place to be.
Oh yeah, there could be turning points in terms of just too much, easy. I mean, when you think about like Spectre, it seems to require skill. With this, it's almost like just have the AI up.
Wow, crew
I don't know.
shade again.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Shade is saying I'm not even skillful now as an engineer, and it's all robots.
Jets have been fired. Proof
my
already has the
God.
Jade mech, and it's firing straight to Jebro.
I said what I said, and you can take it up with me in the
God.
DM. Let's fight.
I said what I said.
Oh my
Exactly.
God. Can you believe this? Can you? Groove, how dare.
That was my I had a lot of great first impressions, but that's maybe the one thing that I would like to maybe get my hands on to see how it feels.
I'm scared about AI. I've said it. I actually said it in my video in the trailer. I don't like AI. I never have. I don't like minions. I don't like pets. I don't like any of that kind of stuff. But I did say I like the mech because it's a mech. And also, it needs to have a lot of acts. You need to do the things. If you do not do the things like actively, and you are controlling this thing as if you are literally controlling it as your abilities and everything else and movement, I will not be interested in it at all. And it does look like there is a lot of opportunity to control it, I think.
I think that was the big thing. Oh, good job.
Oh, shit. What?
Go.
What I wanted to say when it came in regards to the specialization is, since the traits are so heavily focused around the mech, I am afraid that you would find yourself in a situation where the spec would be underwhelming as soon as your Jade mech is either disabled or killed. If we want a point of comparison, let's take a look at, for example, the Soul Beast for Ranger.
Yeah.
You have the ability to merge with your pet, and you also have stances. So there is this duality of skills that you can use in order to make the spec do something.
And if your pet dies, you can swap to the other one.
You can swap to another one, or you can just use your stances. Like, you don't have to care about the pet, you can still do stuff, right? Whereas here, if your Jade mech is disabled or dies, the only thing you've got left are your weapon skills, because like your utility skills are tied to your mech being there to do stuff.
It does affect you as well, though.
But like it is underwhelming in my opinion. Like, I feel that it being too centered around the mech, which is something that is not like permanent in the game. Well, as long as you live, it should be around. Like, sure, but I feel that it's a design choice that might be a bit risky for some game modes.
Do you think though then it enables maybe the engineer to be very, very active in making sure they defend the actual mech itself, right?
For sure, that's going to be a necessity, and I expect people to fine-tune their skill bar for that purpose.
That's pretty
like,
cool,
I am
though,
thinking
right?
that I'm thinking that people won't actually play with the whole mech skills in the utility bar. They will go for some more defensive stuff, or for something that they can use in case the golem goes down and they still need to get something going on their own, like the elixir gun or whatever. I'm not seeing people going full in on the mech. Like, you won't bet everything you got on the mech.
I will tell you what I would love to have instead of this cooldown, that I think would be very fun, as if it was another person, or it felt more attached to you and not exactly specifically like another pet. I'd actually like to really see you be able to revive this somehow, or fix it. Or
just get a key out and start smashing in with it.
a key.
Oh, Jesus! There you go. My French
I mean, you can
brain
get Jesus
is
out as well. Hello, Jesus
my
and a key.
French brain is creating major damage again. In French, we say clé. Literally everything is a clé in French. It's like clé à molette, clé droite, clé plate, clé coupée.
Did you forget to,
Everything
you
is
forgot to add
key
the
in
word?
French. That's a problem.
Right, okay. So what was the word you wanted to add to that word?
A wrench.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Let's talk about a wrench. Like, take a wrench out and hit the golem with it.
Hey, Evanods, welcome. Yes, it is. Yeah, I would love to see that. Like, you remember how so on Toolkit, there used to be a mechanic where you would repair your turrets, or like if you've got a toolkit out, you repair your turrets or something, and like it would be exactly. Valen's on it. Good job. It would be. I think that would be exactly. I'm engineer this game. Like I'm engineer. I'm on it. Like I know that thing like the back of my hand. But like, still don't get that saying. Anyway, something like that where you could. One thing that is very cool, which is going to help the defense, I think, of the golem, is the explosive line, which seems it was talking about, and we didn't really get to listen too much. And I'm going to go through that in a video, I think, and maybe people can tell me in the chat if they know what this is about. But it's got explosives on it, and explosives will give you barrier. I'll pull out the traits, the exact traits. It's thingy entrance, and you've got more opportunity to get. You can possibly to get barrier, stun, everything else. Like explosive can be this really, really like empowering part of your build, survivable wise, and also in terms of CC, and also just surviving. So it feels like there's going to be a lot of. They've really thought about how this is going to work with other traits with engineer, and I also really love the fact that with the trait line for this spec specifically, it feels like, and I didn't say this in my video and I wish I had, it feels like I'm programming a mech before I go into battle, and I am programming it for a purpose rather than programming myself, I suppose. As an engineer, like the whole. And that's what's missing from Ranger, like, and it's what's missing from Willbender and some other classes as well. I feel like that extra bit of heart in it is like so you can connect to it. For me, as when I play my main class, I want to be like, I'm an engineer, man. Like I'm an engineer, and I am literally that's the passion. Sorry, and I'm an engineer. I'm programming my. Yeah, exactly. Like all of these skills, like, you know, I'm programming my mech, you know, I'm going to defend my mech because it's empowering me to do my job. You know, it's my machine. I'm still looking after it, but without me, like it can't function. And like it's really intrinsic in its part of the lore and I guess the role play factor of it as well, if you want to say that. But like it feels like, and the jade and just everything, it's just got it. And like the only thing which I'm worried about which is what Creeper's a little bit worried about, and you're talking about, Sam, as well, is that AI factor and how well that's gonna all work. Because if that doesn't work well, the whole thing's just gonna fall apart, and it's a bit scary.
I think that's why, though, we've seen them expand this bar out, right? One, the customization stuff that you were talking about, Jeb, where you can actually customize what some of those abilities will do. Two, the fact that they have increased what we would consider to be like the pet action bar, right? Yeah. Which we've also seen them now use in, our precursor to this, Untamed. And then in here, where you have more direct control over what is happening with this thing. Because I agree with you. I think that that's pivotal for this class. That is the big draw for this class. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. Yeah. I do think that, like we were saying, finding play styles to figure out how you're going to shift your own focus to featuring that and how you're going to sustain it and keep it alive. And your one ability heals both you and the golem. And like how you do those things. I also really liked that trait where if the golem's not in the field or it's flown back, it does aerial strikes while you're combating, which I was like, that is so clever.
You're giving me goosebumps, Rook. And it's because you're talking about engineer, sorry.
Yeah, here we go, Jeff. Let me talk about the class you love. I have never felt a strong draw to engineer, but this class made me go, I really want to play this. And I think that's a huge success. But you can see them thinking about stuff like that, right? Okay, so the big punishment is going to be losing your mech. The cooldown is really long. So let's find ways then to be able to keep the mech up. Let's find ways to sustain it. What happens if it does go away? Is there a trait that you can take that will make it feel not as bad? Yes, we'll have it do aerial strikes. And like you were saying, Jeb, that little extra level of love, the fact that it literally descends onto the field and then leaves the field, that was so exciting to me. In ESO, for example, when I go werewolf form and I summon these little wolf ads that come around me, when their ad time is done, they die. Yeah. They die on the field. They keel over and make this pathetic, terrible noise like I killed them.
You went for that one, did you? Okay, that's good.
Oh,
yeah.
Pack leader, pack master, whatever it is. Yeah. It destroys me every time inside. And it is such a weird, nitpicky thing that I wish they would fix in that game, because I'm like, where's my pack? They're dead. I killed them.
Yeah, but you get a new pack. I thought you liked the fact that they died. I was like, at
No,
least
I hate the fact that they die because it makes no sense. It was just a convenient way for them to clear those ads off the field. But my comparison was that here in Guild Wars 2, that little attention to detail. Well, we can assume maybe your mech is flying and then it lands on the field and then you send it away and it flies off. What is it doing when it's not there? Well, why not select something where you program it to bomb the field? That to me, that ties the experience, the logic, the mentality, the flow all together in a way that I find really satisfying. Now, I do think that adding something like a repair feature would be so cool because then you have this moment of trade-off. Do I waste uptime, maybe, theoretically, to sit here and try and repair this thing for however long they're going to make me repair it for? Do I make myself a sitting duck and maybe get hurt? Do I take different things that make it so that I can shield myself? Do I take certain things that make it so this is expedited? Have I put so much into my mech traits that it's really the main source of my power? So do I have to get it up? Or can I send it off the field and reset the cooldown or do whatever? It repairs off screen and then comes back or something when that cooldown is done. I think that would be the little cherry on top of this class that would really be so good.
Yeah, it's just literally more of an added like that would be cool thing rather than like I need it. But like it would be cool. Like even if it was just like a downed ally, like because even if you go for a res, you're still really like opening yourself up for a lot of crap to happen. But if you're in PvE or something, it would be massively more impactful if you know, like. It's better that it's a cooldown, probably. But I don't know. Yeah, I love the fact, like, when you were talking, I was like, well, basically, you're testing your skills as a guardian, like not a god, the class, the guardian, but like a parent, like a mum or a dad, and you just be like, my golem's dead again. Well, you're just a crap parent. You
gotta repair them.
You gotta repair them.
Let them eat their breakfast.
Yeah, exactly.
Give them their vitamins.
Repair them. Give them their food.
It's like the egg exercise that you hear about in a lot of, I don't know, at least United States like teen dramas where I never had to do, we got a doll or something, but it was like, here's this egg and this is your child and you have to make sure it doesn't break for 2 weeks. We did a doll version.
I did watch the same teen dramas as you did.
I think it was a very gender specific. Yeah, it was very gender specific and very, very narrow-minded way of doing things.
Yeah, it's kind of like that, but like in a more fun sci-fi way.
I would really like that.
It's my choice. I get
like
to pick
if I had to have a child.
Right.
If I had to have a child, I too would prefer that it was a giant lethal jade mech. So.
Yeah. And then I can turn it off maybe and put it to the side every so often. And So the spec, fantastic. Generally, oh god, the DX racer. Where's your t-shirt, crew? Failure. You're fired. Let's go to a few details and then we'll end. But yeah, it would talk. Oh god, get it off my screen. Just sorry.
Oh no.
Oh dear.
Like, yeah.
Trying to get to it. Where are you? Oh, god, they rushed the engineer, didn't they? They rushed it. Like,
Jebro, just because they didn't dedicate the whole stream to engineer doesn't mean they rushed it, Jebro.
I mean, next
there were
time.
two segments of quickly going over it and then more in depth going over it.
Yeah. So I really want him to go over the signet specifically. So I'm gonna let it go. But just look at it.
I'm disappointed in the signets.
I can't remember what they do. I need to remember.
Because they're all just very basic passives.
Oh, wait, traits.
Like whose signets are, to be fair.
But at least with like Glint's facets, which are essentially signets, they had very specific and cool effects. And I think that there are other signets already that have cool effects, like Necromancer has like a life force signet that specifically plays with a profession mechanic. We kind of have that with the elite, which calls it down again. But I was kind of hoping to see how they would do signets in a very modern era of 2021. Like, what do signets look like now that we've had so many years of knowing what a signet is? So
I agree.
The answer is
it's the same.
Say,
that's the answer.
Yeah.
I was gonna say it's the same. Yeah, I was gonna say nothing changed, but
Yeah, and I agree with Sam, the observation you made earlier about when you don't have the mech, what do you really have on this class? And one, I think the mech is cool enough that that's fine with me. I'm good. The mech is amazing. I love this. I actually think this class is incredible. But I agree with you in the sense that, like, really otherwise, is there a whole lot else to really get excited about or talk about with this class? Not really. The mech, I think, is exciting enough.
It's dope. The mech is dope. 100%.
The mech is all they
That's the thing, though, isn't it? But isn't that maybe that, like I think Rook, you're saying it is kind of enough, but also there are classes that just don't even have that. Like they don't have, like they've tried to, and that sounds harsh, but like what I mean is that they've got so many things intrinsically wrapped up in this package, like Catalyst. Let's use it as a prime example because it's the best one. And just be like, they could have focused on the orb. They could have focused on the utilities, the elites, the traits, like anything there. They could have been the main focus on to really highlight that and put it on this pedestal of that's the thing. That is the actual thing. Like Druid, Celestial Avatar is the thing, you know?
Yeah.
Like Firebrand, the book is the thing, you know? The thing.
It also has mantras.
The thing. Well, I mean, yes, but
both.
it's still got the thing, you know? The thing. And with Catalyst, the thing is something. It's it's not the thing. Do you know what I'm trying to say? I'm just trying to say it in the most basic
Today
way possible.
we're learning philosophy with Dr. Jebra.
I can go and
the
get
thing
the
is
philosophy.
something.
I mean, that's the thing.
I got you. The thing, the feature, the concept,
Sorry, I
the
will
identity,
re-say it.
the idea.
Thing.
The thing. No, I get you.
No
like,
F.
the thing they honed in on this class is the mech. And for that payoff, the mech looks incredible. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everything from the actual design to the abilities to the traits that affect what you can do with it to all the different things, that is nailed. So yeah, it's one of those things where I don't necessarily think they need a whole lot else. I think that's great. But I do also agree with the discussion about the fact that, like, could there maybe have been a few other points of interest with the new weapon? And like, yeah, probably, but do I care that much because the mech is so cool? No.
Yeah.
But like, you know what I mean? It's a good concept that they honed in on, and I think this class looks fantastic. I've already got like a million character ideas. I already really want to play it. I'm really curious about the mech. I think it's so fun. I think it's really distinctive. You will never mistake this class for anything else. You will see it and you will go, that is like the Mechanist. That is what that is. That's so great. So yeah, I think that's good enough. And if you are clever and there are enough ways to sustain and figure out how to really make that the core concept of your gameplay, then that's also really cool. And I love that. It would have been neat to see a few of these other supporting things maybe interact with the mech a little bit more dynamically, or have some other interesting things that you could do when the mech wasn't out. But I think we'll just have to see how easy it is to sustain that mech, and/or how you're able to do that, because really, honestly, it might not even matter. You might be so consumed with what you're doing, focusing around that mech that, you know, unless you just are a really negligent parent and you drop your egg on the floor, like it may not even really be an issue at all, you know?
Yeah, I do. I agree with you all in that respect as well. It is going to be, because like as he goes through the traits as well, like I'm like, yeah, this is actually even more mech heavy than I really first thought. There might be some kind of like, there must be like some personal traits in there a little bit more. There really isn't many at all. And then I was like thinking about, I want to get my hands on the other stuff. I know why as well, to a degree. Maybe they haven't gone as with all of the more self-defense / offense stuff, because I think they've got it, but they've got it in like Scrapper and stuff. So at the moment I'm like, okay, what trait lines I'm going to work with this, and which is what probably everyone's done with the classes that they play as well. And you know, it's going to be explosives, which is why it's got explosives in there, because of explosive entrance. And then like it's just gone for pure damage, obviously, because they normally go Zerker on us. But like, I think the signets I need to look into more, because I think I get why they've got signets, at least because of the no tool belt stuff, because there's like, you know, signets are just their own thing, and the tool belt skills are almost like they're an extra activate, but signets almost have that, they have that kind of inbuilt almost tool belt Does that make any sense? Because you can use the active and then you can have the passive. So it's got two sides to it, and the tool belt is like the other side, but it's an activated thing. It's kind of
what you're saying.
It's very weak.
Saying, but
I don't know.
I see what you're saying. It does have a double up, but because the tool belt is gone, make the passives a little bit more interesting.
Was it just damage then?
It was like increased power, decreased damage and condition damage. Increased condition damage, heal over time. It was very much like standard elementalist signet passives.
Okay. So kind of like warrior stuff and guardian like signets are really, because they're not massively exciting normally. Stability would be good.
Spec, I feel like they should. Elite spec signets.
Yeah, but they need to be balanced with everything else. I mean, there needs to be survivability in here. And the funny thing is that, you know, I'll be forever pressing tool belt skills with like other abilities to take. So if I take Elixir S, for example, which like, you know, makes you invulnerable and turns you into a mini-me, like it's like that. I'm not going to get the stealth off the tool belt. And I'm going to be forever just hitting like one of those shift buttons. And I'm just going to be like, am I going to be able to get used to this? It's going to be weird. I'm not going to. And then I'm like, yeah, I play Guild Wars 2 and other classes. Of course I will. But like, you know, players that just play engineer, like they're going to have to get used to a different way of playing, actually, funnily enough, which is something we haven't really talked about. I think they'll be able to manage. I think they'll just be like, yeah, it's a cool mech and it's fun. I don't know. But the mace looks cool. There's that kind of mini ranged ability. It does a lot of confusion.
Yeah, it's once again a condition heavy weapon, just like the double pistols were, and I guess this is gonna give another chance for Condi Engineer to come back onto the field.
Maybe.
So one of the questions I was asking myself is on the way the mech works is. Like for ranger pets, we have archetypes, but when it comes to the mech, is there gonna be a way to take it for more condition or take it for more raw damage or something like that? Because that's something they didn't show directly.
He said that.
But
he said it. He said it more.
I didn't quite pick it up.
Yeah, he showed more Condi traits. Oh no, was it Condi?
You build your mech with
survival.
your traits. So you'll take some traits that will increase condition damage, it gives apply barrier. So it's very much your trait window for this elite spec is just pretty much customization of the mech.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like that's not gonna be enough to truly go all the way for Condi if you want that, but so be it.
You can go for firearms. You can do burning on crit and stuff like that. And it looks like you hit quite consistently on this mech as well, if you look, because your damage is the words piercing. You've got piercing shots. They're not just stopping.
Yeah.
So like if you crit, burn. So you're going to be doing a lot of AoE damage. And as long as your crit, so if you crit on firearms and you basically get burning on your target, which is in the Grandmaster. So like as long as you're critting each time, which is what he's doing there on thingy, but obviously you need to get the right, you know, the right stank combo. So what, Vipers, I guess. Is it Vipers?
Okay. Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Vipers is the most offensive condition set.
Yeah. So like you get crit, you get burning, and you'll do some decent battle. Like I feel like you always, this is the thing with these as well, you only see what they show you, so it's like it's difficult.
I was wondering about what you said about firearms. Is every trait that triggers over your actions as a player going to trigger with the mech? I'm pretty sure that won't work. I'm pretty sure something is not going to work there.
I don't, but
we'll see with the better spec.
Otherwise, you're not going to do any damage. Like yourself, like you're not gonna be able to do anything extra. Like the traits must affect your
thing. I mean, that's the thing for Ranger, for example.
That's
like if you have a skill that boosts your bleeding duration, it doesn't do it for your pet. Or if you have a skill that's like bleeding on crit, it's not the same for your pet unless written as such. So either they rework all the skills and add this also applies to your Jade mech, or option 2, they don't, and then like the mech is not going to have as much leeway with how you can build it to be potent as the player can itself.
Well, but they did put in the fact that your gear substats will affect the mech. So
Yeah, but
if
like-
you're building yourself
That's
around
true.
something like that kind of play style, that might also help reinforce that on an additional level with this mech that
Maybe.
you wouldn't see with like Ranger Pet.
Surely, but I feel that traits are the most important when it comes to what you can do with your build. Like, you could take the wrong gear, but with the right traits, you'll get something done. So I feel that these traits that have an impact on you should be also reworked a little bit to have an impact on the golem. Like, for instance, a crit, a Condi on crit, given how often this Jade Mech crits, how many targets it can hit, this would be wonderful. It should be the way it is.
Okay.
And that's all I have to say. Like, I'm
I'm there. I mean, I'm hoping that. I do hope that that is the case, because I want that to be the thing. I don't mind, like, it looks like there's a Signet skill, for example. The Signet skills look like they're skills to help you protect your golem as well, to be honest, because there's the bubble, there's the big knockback to give you the space to, heal it up, to, so it can range. There's those things there. So there's definitely that emphasis on that. And it feels like if the traits aren't working like as if they're working for the engineer and, they're not working for the golem, it might be that's going to be a problem, I think. But I guess we'll find out as well. I'm gonna make.
surely.
Huh?
Huh?
What did you say though?
You said we will see it, and I said quite surely.
Oh,
We
okay.
will see it.
We'll see it, yeah.
I was being I was
it was
approving of your sentence. I was being supportive, and you made fun of the French person.
No.
for-
It was actually Kroof. It was more Kroof actually that was making the
it was
weird.
more Kroof,
that
yeah,
was
so be
making
it.
the noise.
So
There
be
was
it.
the witch. The witch.
I've never done anything wrong in my whole life,
No,
so
that's
I'll
true.
just be over here still polished.
Listen to Miss Perfect right here. I guess you were class representative, weren't you?
Perfect and pristine.
Real though?
No.
So fresh and so clean.
You had me there. You had me.
That discharge going from the mech was amazing. Wait, what's that discharge?
It
isn't it?
Was it though?
It does interact with your tool build skills, it seems. So you'll get those traits at least.
But static discharge isn't in that build.
I mean, it is the tool
No,
belt.
I believe
Technically.
he swaps to other traits to show off the
okay.
tool belt
Oh, he
interactions.
did? Okay, I didn't see that bit because we were talking. There were too many of us.
Well, I was being attentive.
Lord.
You're welcome.
Well, I'm going to go through it tonight and do a video because I'm not streaming. So I'm going to go and
you
do a video
make in-depth videos.
Yeah,
of
I'm gonna
this,
make
and I
an
actually
in-depth
need to
video
make one on Ranger.
of the traits and everything, and it's going to be 5 hours long.
I'm going to do a video on the philosophy of tanking and single target healing in Guild Wars 2.
Do it. I believe in you.
I believe in you. All right, we're gonna end the stream there. I think we're gonna end it there because this has gone on very, very long, and I really appreciate everyone.
5 hours. Yeah.
6 hours. Almost.
Wait, what? I read 5.
It's
12
okay. Kroof can't tell the
almost
time. It's
5.
fine.
No, 12 almost 5. Right?
Some of us got here at 11:30 a.m.
It has been almost 5. It has been almost 5 hours, yeah.
I appreciate the fact that you said 11:30 a.m., but it's so not 11:30 a.m.
It's not. Sam came in at like 9 a.m. or something. I think in some of the demonstration he wasn't in combat, so they didn't.
It's
fight.
2 a.m. here.
You're right. You're right. I failed.
So we should stay for a couple more hours and punish them.
Yeah.
It doesn't like Ranger. All right, so everyone, thank you so much for watching.
I'll
this.
make a video on Ranger.
the last guild chat / Lightbringers post guild chat stream. So this is episode 27, talking about the last 3 elite specializations to be revealed before the beta comes out, which is going to be next week. We have had the Spectre. I guess sometimes I forget him. The Spectre, the Untamed, and also the Mechanist. Very, very interesting. Awesome. We've had 3 awesome and amazing guests as well. Kroof, tell us about yourself before we go, what to do, where you do it, and how we find you and do the things.
Hi. So I just want to say, it is very emotional and touching that this is the final batch. We have been through so many, and it has been lovely streaming with you, Jebro, and Rook, and Boots when he's been here. Sam, you chill. But hi, everyone. I love you too, Sam. Thank you so much for having me. I'm Kroof. I do a lot of YouTube stuff with Guild Wars 2. covering the Elite Specs, news, build crafting. Also, I redid Heart of Thorns stories. If you want to go check that out, please do. But I also stream here on Twitch Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. So thank you. This has been a lovely experience. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm humbled.
The LightBringers is not ending this week, by the way, everyone. It's just this.
What? It's not.
Kroof is like saying it as if
that
the show's just coming to an end. Kroof is fired, so it's coming to an end for them, but not anyone else.
I was informed that this show was crumbling and being cancelled. Okay.
No, it's just you that's cancelled. Rook. Sorry.
I'm gonna have to find another job.
That's okay. I too have also been fired. So in my post LightBringers career, you can all find me. Although you can find me this pre LightBringers as well. And for any future episodes of LightBringers podcast that you all imagine, clearly because the show is ending this time around, it'll just be a figment of your imagination. Any future episodes we all do. No, I'm kidding. But of course, obviously, you can find me Bird of Chess everywhere. As of right now, so I am a variety MMO broadcaster with a focus on Guild Wars 2 and Final Fantasy 14. I'm all about fostering inclusive, diverse spaces and having, great conversations about games while we do it, and occasionally just laughing about butts and stuff. So we have a good time, whatever we're playing, whatever we're doing, and whatever we're breaking down. If you don't find me on my Twitch, which is twitch.tv Bird of Chess, you can find me on YouTube. That's something that I have just started up here in the last year, and it's been such a great journey, and we have been expanding all kinds of stuff and content we're doing over there, so it means a lot for those of you who subscribe or check it out. And then you can also find me on various social media and on podcasts here, and then also on Aetheryte Radio, a Final Fantasy 14 podcast I co-host with Gamer Escape. So wherever we are, we're probably playing games, talking about games, or laughing about butts, and we'd love to see you.
Gotta get that fartcore.
Yeah, you gotta get fartcore going. Oh, but very soon, I've been saying this, very soon we're having a rebrand name change, so it'll very soon be Rookuri, Rookuri on everything.
If you were here earlier, yes, we talked about Spectre and we loved it very much. So yeah, just saying that as an extra thing. Sam, first time on the LightBringers, and definitely the last. How are you?
Jesus. Jeez. I knew it. That's the third Jesus tonight. This is the level we've reached. So good evening / good morning, everyone, wherever it might be. I am Sam. I am usually known for some more financial-oriented content when it comes to Guild Wars 2. Market, economy, making all of that. But since I also enjoy playing the game at a wannabe hardcore level, I was brought today to entertain the masses and provide some very dubious quality puns to my co-hosts. So I thank them very much for having subjected themselves to such a horrible predicament, and I wish to come here once more in the future, be it near or far, who knows. With this said and done, if you want to find me, it is on YouTube, Sa Majesté, or on Twitch, also Sa Majesté, not written the same because Twitch doesn't like the accents. And you can also find me on Twitter, where I mostly retweet anime illustrations. Don't judge. Don't judge.
I also love anime, so no judgment here.
So, I mean, 90% of my stuff is, cute anime girl, I retweet. Cute anime boy works as well, by the way. I appreciate all things anime.
Anything that is cute and good in anime.
So there we go. With this I guess I have described myself appropriately. I am a clown. I think you guys have realized
Clownery.
it. So yeah, there you go. I hope
an actual clown.
you had a good time.
It's really nice meeting you, Sam. It was so great.
Thank you. It was a pleasure as well.
We all run
I'm a
into
wee bit tired, but there was some good energy.
You did great. The puns, I mean, you brought the energy in every single pun you did today, I felt,
Thank you.
Good energy, bad energy, who knows? But it was energy.
It was energy. We needed it.
Oh, boy.
Okie dokie. Right, we're going to end. Thank you, everyone, for watching the LightBringers episode 27. I've been Jebro Unity, or Jebro, your host. Please make sure you come and check out all the things. And, the dab from last week. Appreciate it, indeed. Yes. If you want to check out all the things I do, if you're live here on the channel right now, you want to chuck a follow, that'd be very much appreciated. I'm streaming a lot less nowadays because I am now an official counselor. I am a counselor counseling kids and adolescents and all the things. So mental health wise here in America, on the West Coast in the community. So it's finding out it's very taxing, very heavy job, but it's been awesome so far. I don't get paid, so if you do want to support the channel in any way, shape or form, I'd very much appreciate it. So if you do want to sub, you want to tip, you want to do other things, do that. You can do that indeed. Also, please make sure you go over to all of our friends' channels here today, Kroof, Rook, and also Sam. Check out their YouTube, their Twitch, their Twitter content, all the things. There will also be a link in the YouTube description where you can purchase End of Dragons pre-purchase from myself, Kroof, Rook, or Sam, and they will get some support behind that if you want to support them in that as well, because you're all probably going to buy the expansion, especially because we sold Ranger so well today. We definitely sold Engineer and sold the Thief pretty well today as well, to be honest. But if you've been watching this on Spotify, which is brand new, they've started to introduce video to their audio stuff. So podcasts with video. In the past, I will go and upload all the video from the past episodes as well, which is going to be a massive pain in the knee. You'll be able to watch all the video. Whenever we say, look at our faces, you can actually do that on Spotify now, which is bloody awesome. Otherwise, we're going to go. Check out the things. See you soon. Thanks to the guests. I don't want to go to the last one. You're going to go to the store? Goodbye. Episode 27 of the LightBringers podcast. Take care. See you soon. And that's the wrong screen. Goodbye for now. Thanks for watching. Take it easy. Bye. See you next week. We're going to be playing the Elite Specializations with some guests that made the classes. They can give us all the opinions on all the things. It's going to be very interesting. See you soon. Oh, I'll give you a little bit of a preview. Inks and Valen are going to be on.
Woo! Wow!
See you later.
Crazy.
That crazy. We'll end it. Bye-bye.